Al-Fawaid, Benefits, a collection of wise reflections. By Imam Shams Ad-Dîn ibn Qayyim Al-Jawziyyah. Translation by Muhammad Al-Amrani. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, and by him we seek help. Said the Shaykh, the reviver of the Sunnah and subduer of innovation, Abu Abdullah, known as Ibn Qayyim Al-Jawziyyah, may God have mercy on him and be well pleased with him. A sublime principle: if you wish to truly benefit from the Qur'an, then gather your heart when reciting it, and upon listening to it. Lend your ear, and attend as one personally addressed by it from him who spoke it, glory be unto him, to you. For indeed he addresses you through it upon the tongue of his messenger. Exalted is he who said, "In this, behold, there is indeed a reminder for everyone who has a living heart, or who gives ear with full attention while being present in mind." 50:37. This is because the perfection of an effect depends upon an efficacious cause, a receptive locus, a condition for the effect to occur, and the absence of whatever would prevent it. The verse contains, in the most concise and luminous expression, all of this. His saying, "In this, a reminder," points to what has preceded from the beginning of the surah to this place that is the efficacious cause. His saying, "For everyone who has a heart," is the receptive locus. What is meant is the living heart that understands from God. As he said, it is but a reminder and a clear Qur'an, so that he may warn everyone who is truly alive in spirit. 36:69-70. That is, alive in heart. His saying, "or who gives ear," means he directs his hearing and inclines the faculty of hearing to what is being said. This is the condition required for being affected by speech. His saying, while being present in mind, means with a witnessing heart, present and not absent. Ibn Qutaybah said, "He listens to the book of God with a heart that is present and understanding, not heedless and not inattentive." This alludes to the blocker that prevents the effect from occurring, namely the heart's distraction, its being absent from grasping what is said, from looking into it and pondering it. Thus, when the efficacious cause is present, the Qur'an, and the receptive locus is ready, the living heart, and the condition is fulfilled, attentive listening, and the impediment is removed, the heart's occupation with other concerns and its turning away from the meaning of the address. Then the effect is realized, namely, benefit and remembrance. If it be asked, since the effect is completed only by the sum of all these elements, why does the verse use the particle or in "or who gives ear," whereas the place would seem to call for the conjunction "and," which conjoins together, not "or," which indicates an alternative? This is a fine question. The answer is that the speech employs "or" in consideration of the state of the one addressed. Among people are those whose hearts are alive and keenly receptive, whose innate disposition is sound and unspoiled. Such a one, when he reflects in his heart and lets his thought roam, his heart and mind guide him to the truth of the Qur'an, that it is reality itself, and his heart bears witness to what the Qur'an declares. In such a person, the descent of the Qur'an is a light upon the light of his primordial nature. This is the description of those of whom it was said, "And those who were given knowledge see that what has been revealed to you from your sustainer is the truth." 34:6. And of them, he said, "God is the light of the heavens and the earth." The parable of his light is that of a niche containing a lamp. The lamp is enclosed in glass. The glass is shining like a radiant star. It is lit from the oil of a blessed tree, an olive neither of the east nor of the west. the oil whereof would well nigh give light of itself, even though fire had not touched it. Light upon light. God guides to his light whomever he wills. 24:35. The light of primordial nature upon the light of revelation. This is the state of the heart that is living and aware. Ibn al-Qayyim said, "We have elucidated some of the secrets and lessons contained in this noble verse in our book, The Rallying of the Islamic Armies Against the Negators and the Jarmites." The one who possesses such a heart couples his heart to the meanings of the Qur'an, and he finds them as though they had already been written within him. He recites them, as it were, from memory. As for the one whose readiness is not complete, his heart not fully aware, and his life of spirit not perfected, he needs a witness that distinguishes for him the true from the false. The life and light of his heart and the soundness of his nature have not reached the degree of the living, aware heart. The path to his guidance is to empty his hearing for the speech and his heart for reflection upon it, pondering its meanings until he knows then that it is the truth. The first case is the state of one who sees with his own eye that to which he has been called and of which he has been informed. The second is the state of one who knows the truthfulness of the informer and is certain of it, and so says, "The informer's word suffices me." The second thus stands at the level of faith, man, and the first at the level of spiritual excellence, ihsan. The first has reached the knowledge of certainty, and his heart ascends from it to the station of the eye of certainty, whereas the other has firm ascent by which he has left unbelief and entered Islam. The eye of certainty is of two kinds, one in this world and one in the next. What is realized in this world stands to the heart as the witnessed stands to the eye, and what the messengers told of the unseen is beheld in the hereafter by bodily eyesight, and in this world by inner insight, eye of certainty, in both stations. Section. This Surah Kaf gathers of the fundamental truths of faith, what suffices, cures, and makes unnecessary the disputation of the dialecticians and the conjectures of the speculators. It comprises the affirmation of the origin and the return, of God's oneness and of messengership, faith in the angels, the division of mankind into the wretched doomed and the felicitous saved, with the descriptions of each. It contains the affirmation of the attributes of divine perfection and the transcendence of God above all that negates his perfection of deficiencies and faults. It mentions therein the two risings, the lesser at death and the greater at the resurrection, and the two worlds, the greater the world of the hereafter, and the lesser the world of this life. It mentions therein the creation of man, his death and his return, his state at death and on the day of return, and God's encompassing him from every side, even unto his knowledge of the whispers of his soul, and that he has set guardians over him who enumerate his every utterance, and that he shall come on the day of resurrection with a driver who drives him to God, and a witness who testifies against him. When the driver presents him, it will be said, "This is the one in my charge, made ready." 50:23, that is, "This one whom I was commanded to bring, I have brought." Then, when he is presented, it is said, "Cast both of you into hell, every stubborn ingrate." 50:24, as the culprit is brought into the presence of a sovereign, and it is said, "This is so-and-so, I have brought him," whereupon the sovereign orders, "Take him to the prison, and punish him as he deserves." Consider how clearly this surah indicates that God glorified be, he will restore this very body itself, which obeyed and disobeyed, and will bliss it or chastise it, just as he blisses the very soul that believed, and chastises the very soul that disbelieved, not that he creates another soul in place of this one to be rewarded or punished, as claimed by those who have not known the return which the messengers proclaimed, who presumed that God creates another body, wholly other than this body, upon which reward and punishment should fall, and that the soul is but an accident of the body, so that he creates another soul and another body in lieu of these. This is not what the messengers unanimously proclaimed, nor what the Qur'an and Sunnah and the other books of God point to. In truth, such a view is a denial of the return and an agreement with the deniers among the beliers. For they did not deny God's power to create other bodies to punish and bless, how so, when they witness humankind continually being created, time after time. At every moment God brings forth bodies and souls other than those that have perished. So why would they marvel at a thing they see with their own eyes? What they found astonishing was their own return in their very selves after decay had torn them apart and made them bones and dust. They marvelled that they themselves, as themselves, would be raised for requital. Hence, and they said, "What? When we are dead and are dust and bones, shall we indeed be raised to life?" 37:16. And they said, "That is a far return." 50:3. Now, if requital were for bodies other than these, it would not be a raising nor a return, but an inception. Nor would his saying, "We know well what the earth diminishes of them." 54 have notable meaning, for he made this a reply to a tacit question, namely, how he will distinguish those parts that have mixed with the earth and transformed into its elements so as not to be distinguishable. He informs that he knows what the earth takes away of their flesh, bones, and hair, and that just as he knows those particles, he is able to retrieve and gather them after their dispersal, composing them anew, creating a new creation. Thus he establishes the return by mentioning the perfection of his knowledge, the perfection of his power, and the perfection of his wisdom. For the objections of the deniers all return to three types. First, the intermingling of their parts with the parts of earth in a way that precludes distinction of one person from another. Second, that power cannot attach to this. Third, that there is no benefit in it, or that wisdom only demanded the perpetuity of the human species, generation after generation. Thus, whenever a generation dies, another succeeds it. But as for God's causing all humankind to die at once, and then reviving them thereafter, this, they said, contains no wisdom. Hence, the Quranic proofs for the return are founded on three principles. First, affirming the perfection of the Lord's knowledge, glorified be He, as in his answer to the one who said, "Who shall enliven the bones when they are decayed?" Say, He who brought them into being the first time will give them life again, for he has full knowledge of every created thing. 36, 78, 79. And his saying, "And truly the last hour is bound to come, so forgive them with a gracious forgiveness. Verily your sustainer is he who creates incessantly, all-knowing." 15, 85, 86. And his saying, "We know indeed what the earth diminishes of them." 50, 4. Second, affirming the perfection of his power, as in, "Is then he who created the heavens and the earth not able to create the like of them?" 36.81. And, "Nay, indeed, we are able to restore even his very fingertips." 75.4. And, "All this because God is the ultimate truth, and because he gives life to the dead, and because he has power over all things." 22.6. And he often combines both perfect knowledge and perfect power, as in, "Is then he who created the heavens and the earth not able to create the like of them? Yea, indeed, for he alone is the all-creator, all-knowing." 36.81. Third, The perfection of his wisdom, as in, and we did not create the heavens and the earth, and all that is between them, as those who play. 44:38. And we did not create the sky and the earth, and all that is between them in vain. 38:27. And does man think that he is to be left to himself, to go about at will? 75:36. And did you think that we created you in mere idle play, and that unto us you would not return? Exalted then be God the King, the ultimate truth. 23:1, 1:15, 1:116. And do those who have committed evil deeds imagine that we shall place them on a par with those who have attained to faith and done righteous deeds, so that their life and their death shall be alike? How ill they judge. 45:21. Thus, the sound view is that the return is known through reason together with revelation, and that the perfection of the Lord exalted be he, and the perfection of his names and attributes require and necessitate it, and that he is far above what its deniers allege, just as his perfection is far above all other defects and deficiencies. He then informs glorified be he that when they belied the truth, their affair became confused for them. Thus they are in a state of confusion, major endi pao. 55 perplexed, obtaining nothing solid. He then calls them to reflect upon the higher world, its construction, its elevation, its balance, beauty and coherence. Then to the lower world, the earth, and how he spread it out, preparing it by that spreading for what he intended of it, and how he stabilized it with mountains, and how he deposited in it benefits, and how he made to grow therein of every lovely kind of vegetation, with differences of forms, colours, measures, uses, and properties. And that all this is a clear insight, tabsira. If the returning servant contemplates it, he takes insight. And that is a reminder, tadakkur, of what the messengers declared of oneness and return. Thus the contemplative first takes insight, then he remembers. And this occurs only to a servant who returns to God with his heart and limbs. He then calls them to ponder the very stuff of their livelihoods, sustenance, clothing, conveyances, and gardens, which is the water he sends down from the sky and blesses, whereby he brings forth gardens with fruits diverse, white, black, red, yellow, sweet and sour, and all between, despite the differing springs and the variety of their kinds, and by it he brings forth all grains, diverse as they are varying in uses, properties, shapes, and measures. Then he singles out the date palm for the special lessons it contains, which are not hidden from the contemplative. He revives thereby the earth after its death, then says, "Thus shall be your coming forth from the earth." That is, just as these fruits, foods, and grains come forth from the earth, so shall you come forth from it after you have been hidden therein. He then passes glory be to him to the establishment of messengership in the most excellent manner, with the most concise wording, far removed from any doubt. He informs that he sent messengers to the people of Noah, Ad, Thamud, the people of Lot, and Pharaoh's folk. They belied them, so he destroyed them with various destructions, and the warning spoken by his messengers came to pass for them when they refused to believe. This is an affirmation of their prophethood, and of the prophethood of him who informed of them with such detail, without learning this from a teacher, or reading it in a book rather. He informed of it in a manner fully consistent with what is with the people of the book. There is no objection against this, save the objection of brazen denial, rejecting what is established by necessity. None of this happened, or these were accidents of time, as happened to others. Yet the one who raises such an objection knows within himself that he is but a disputer who denies what the eye has witnessed and what generations have transmitted, age after age, his denial like denying the existence of famous kings and scholars or of distant lands. Then he returns, glorious is he, to the establishment of the return, saying, Were we then wearied by the first creation? 50:15. And it is said of any one who is overcome and exhausted by a matter, that he is weary. The poet said they were at a loss in their affairs, just as the dove is bewildered with her egg. And of this is God's word, and he did not grow weary in creating them. 46:33. Ibn Abbas said, he means, did we become incapable? And Muqatil said likewise. I say, this is an interpretation by the necessary consequence of the word, yet its reality is broader than that. For the Arabs say, it baffles me to know such and such, or I am at a loss regarding it, when one does not find the way to it, is unable to know it, or to attain it. They say, your remedy baffles me, when they did not find it nor reach it, and the necessary consequence of this is inability. The verse cited in evidence bears this meaning, for the dove is not incapable of her egg, but she is bewildered when she wants to lay it where to let it fall. She turns and circles until she drops it, and when she has laid it, she is at a loss as to where to keep and shelter it so that it will not be taken. She moves it from place to place, perplexed as to where to make its abode, just as is the state of one baffled by his affair, not knowing how to approach it. The weariness negated in this verse is thus not fatigue, as imagined by one who does not know the Qur'an's expression. Indeed, that meaning fatigue is what he negates for himself at the end of the surah, and no weariness whatsoever has ever touched us. 50:38. He then informs that they are in doubt about being brought into a new creation. 50:15. Their minds are confused regarding recreation. Then he alerts them to one of the greatest signs of his power, the evidences of his lordship, and proofs of the return, the creation of the human being, for it is among the greatest proofs of oneness and return. What proof is clearer than the composition of this human form, its limbs, powers, properties, its flesh and bone, veins and nerves, ligaments, channels, instruments, knowledge, will, and crafts, all of this from a drop of fluid. If only the servant were fair to his Lord, he would suffice himself with contemplating his own self, and from his own being infer all that the messengers told of God, his names, and his attributes. He then tells of his encompassing knowledge even to the whispers of the soul, then of his nearness to him in knowledge and all-encompassing awareness, nearer to him than the jugular vein within him. Thus he is nearer to him in power and knowledge than that vein. Our Sheikh said, "By we are nearer to him, he intends our angels," as in, and so, when we recite it, follow you its recitation. 75.18, that is, when our messenger Gabriel recites it to you. What supports this is his saying, when the two receivers receive, 50:17, thus he has attached the mentioned nearness to the receiving of the two angels, and had the nearness meant nearness of the divine essence, it would not be restricted to the moment of the two angels' reception. There is thus in the verse neither ground for those who affirm indwelling nor for those who deny his attributes. He then informs glorified is he that on his right and on his left are two angels who record his deeds and words, and by enumerating the words and recording them he alludes to the recording of deeds, which occur less frequently, yet are weightier in effect, for they are the ends and consummation of words. He then tells of the lesser rising, the throes of death, that it comes with full reality, 50.19, namely the encounter with him, the coming before him, the exposure of the soul to him, and the reward and punishment that are hastened for it before the greater resurrection. He then mentions the greater resurrection. and the trumpet will be blown. This is the promised day of warning. 50:20. Then he describes people's states on that day. That every person will come to God exalted is he with a driver who drives him and a witness who testifies against him. This witness is other than the testimony of his limbs, other than the testimony of the earth upon which he acted for or against him, and other than the testimony of his messenger and the believers. For God calls to witness over the servant, the guardians, the prophets, the places where they did good and evil, and the very skins with which they disobeyed, not judging between them by his knowledge alone, though he is the most just of judges and the wisest of arbiters. Hence he informed his prophet that he judges between people by what he hears from their confessions and the testimony of witnesses, not by mere personal knowledge. How then could any judge render judgment on the basis of his personal knowledge without evidence or confession? He then tells that man is heedless of this matter, though most worthy of never being forgotten, rather constantly kept in mind. He said, "You were heedless of this." 50:22. He did not say heedless of it, just as he said, "And they are indeed in grave doubt concerning it." 11:110, not in doubt in it. This comes in the verbal noun, though not in the verb. One does not say, "I was heedless of it," in Arabic usage. It is as though his heedlessness and doubt begin from this thing. It is the very source of his heedlessness and doubt which is more emphatic than saying heedless of it, and in doubt regarding it. He made that which should be the origin of remembrance and certainty into the origin of heedlessness and doubt. He then tells that the veil of heedlessness and distraction will be lifted from him on that day, just as the cover of sleep is lifted from the heart at waking and from the eye when it opens. Thus the lifting of this veil at the moment of witnessing is like the lifting of the veil of sleep upon awakening. He then tells that his companion, the one who was paired with him in dunya, of the angels who recorded his deeds and words, will say when he is brought forth, "This is the one over whom I was set in charge, I have presented him." This is the saying of Mujahid. Ibn Qutayba said, the meaning is, "This is what I wrote against him and enumerated of his words and deeds present with me." The sound understanding is that the verse encompasses both meanings. This is the person entrusted to me, and this is his deed which I have enumerated. It is then said, "Cast both of you into hell." 50:24. This is either an address to the driver and the witness, or an address to the angel charged with his punishment, even if he be one, for this is one of the Arabs' modes of address. Or the alif is the transformed light nun of the light emphatic particle, with the junction treated like a pause. He then lists the qualities of the one cast into hell, 6 traits. First, that he is utterly ungrateful, denying God's blessings and rights, ungrateful to his religion, oneness, names and attributes, ungrateful to his messengers and angels, ungrateful to his books and meeting. Second, that he is obstinately defiant to truth, rejecting it out of obstinacy. Third, that he withholds all good, both the good which is kindness to himself by obedience and nearness to God, and the good which is kindness to people, so that there is no good in him for his own self, nor for the children of his kind. This is the state of most folk. Fourth, that together with withholding good, he is transgressing against people, wrongful, overbearing, aggressing against them by hand and tongue. Fifth, that he is full of doubt, given to suspicion, and with that he approaches every suspicious matter. One says of a man, murab, when he is a person of dubious dealings. Sixth, that he is a polytheist, taking with God another God, whom he worships and loves, for whom he is angered and pleased, by whose name he swears, for whom he vows, for whose sake he allies and enmities. Then he and his companion among the devils dispute, he shifting the blame to him, saying he led him astray and made him outrageous. But his companion says, I had no power over him to make him go astray or act outrageously. Rather, he was already in far error, which he chose for himself, and preferred over the truth, as Iblis will say to the people of the fire. I had no authority over you whatever, except that I called you, and you responded to me. 14:22. On this understanding, the companion here is his devil, and they dispute before God. A group said rather, his companion here is the recording angel, whereupon the sinner claims that the angel has gone beyond the truth in what he wrote against him, and wronged him, and that he did not actually do all of that, or that the angel hastened to write, preventing him from repenting and not giving him respite, whereupon the angel says, I did not add in my writing beyond what he did, nor did I hasten him from repentance. But he was in far error. 50:27. Then the Lord exalted be, he says, do not dispute in my presence. 50:28. God has told of the disputation between the unbelievers and the devil before him in Surat al-Safat and al-Araf, of the disputation of people before him in Surat al-Zumar, and of the disputation of the people of the fire in Surat al-Shu'ara and Sa'd. He then informs that no word is altered with me. 50:29. It is said, what is meant is his word. I shall assuredly fill hell with jinn and human beings together. 11:119, and his promise of the garden for the people of faith, none of which can be changed or revoked. Ibn Abbas said, he means, I do not break my promise to the people of my obedience, nor to the people of my disobedience. Mujahid said, I have decreed what I am to decree, and this is the sounder of the two views. Another interpretation is that the meaning is, no word is altered with me by lies and obfuscation, as words are altered before kings and judges, so the word would be the word of the disputants. This is the choice of Al-Farra and Ibn Qutaybah. Al-Farra said, the meaning is, none lies in my presence, because I possess knowledge of the unseen. Ibn Qutaybah said, meaning, the word is neither distorted, nor increased, nor diminished before me, because he said, the word with me, and did not say, my word. It is like saying, none lies in my presence. On the first reading, his saying, and I am not unjust to my servants, 50:29, is of the completion of the meaning of no word is altered with me. That is, what I have said and promised comes to pass inevitably, yet with perfect justice, without injustice or bias. On the second reading, he has described himself with two matters, the perfection of his knowledge and his watch, precluding the alteration of words in his presence and the promotion of falsehood before him, and the perfection of his justice and independence from need, precluding any injustice toward his servants. He then tells of the vastness of hell, that whenever it is cast full, it says, are there any more? 50:30, and those who claim this is for denial, there is no more, erred, for the authentic hadith refutes such an interpretation. He then tells of the bringing near of the garden to the God-conscious, that its people are those who have taken on these four traits. First, that he is awwab, ever returning to God from disobedience to obedience, from heedlessness to remembrance. Ubayd ibn Umayr said, the awwab is he who remembers his sins, then seeks forgiveness from them. Mujahid said, he who, when he remembers his sin in seclusion, seeks forgiveness from it. Sa'ad ibn al-Musayyib said, he who sins and then repents and sins and repents. Second, that he is Hafaz, guarding what God has entrusted him with, and made obligatory keeping what God has deposited with him of his right and his blessing. Since the soul has two powers, the power of seeking and the power of restraining. The Awwab is one who employs the power of seeking in returning to God, his good pleasure, and his obedience. And the Hafaz employs the power of restraint in refraining from his prohibitions. The Hafaz restrains himself from what is forbidden to him. The Awwab advances toward God with obedience. Third, his saying, who stands in awe of the all-merciful, although unseen. 50:33 entails acknowledging his existence, lordship, power, knowledge, and his knowing the details of the servant's states. Acknowledging his books and his messengers, his command and prohibition, and acknowledging his promise and threat, and the meeting with him thus, fearful awe of the all-merciful in the unseen, is not sound, save after all this. Fourth, and comes with a heart turned in penitence. 50:33. Ibn Abbas said, returning from disobedience to the obedience of God. The reality of inaba is the heart's continual cleaving to the obedience and love of God, and turning with one's whole being toward him. He then mentions the recompense for those who bear these traits, saying, enter it in peace. This is the day of everlasting life. Theirs is all that they may desire therein, and with us there is yet more. 50:34-35. Then he warns them that a destruction like that which befell those before them might befall them, that those were mightier in power, yet their might did not avail them, and that in their destruction they roamed the lands, did they find any escape or refuge from God's chastisement. Qatada said, the enemies of God sought escape, but found that what God intended for them overtook them. Al-Zajjaj said, they circled and searched, but found no escape from death. In truth, they sought a way to flee death, and did not find it. He then informs glory be to him, that in what he has mentioned, there is indeed a reminder for everyone who has a living heart, or who gives ear with full attention while being present in mind. 50:37. Then he tells that he created the heavens and the earth, and what is between them in 6 days, and that no weariness touched him, refuting his enemies among the Jews, who said he rested on the 7th day. He then commands his prophet to take him exalted is he as an example in patience over what the enemies say of him, just as he himself endured what the Jews said, he rested. And none is more patient than he in bearing what he hears. He then commanded him with what aids patience, to glorify with praise of his Lord before the sun's rising and before its setting, and in the night and after the prostrations. It is said this is the Witr prayer, and it is said the 2 units after Maghrib. The first is Ibn Abbas's view, the second the view of Umar, Allah, Abu Huraira, and Al-Hasan ibn Allah, and one of the 2 reports from Ibn Abbas. Another report from Ibn Abbas says it is glorification by the tongue after the prescribed prayers. He then concludes the surah with mention of the return and the call of the caller, the return of souls to their bodies for the gathering, and informs that this call is from a place near, heard by everyone, on the day when they will hear the final blast in truth. 50:42. The awakening, the encounter with God. The day when the earth shall split asunder over them, 50:44, as it splits for vegetation, and they emerge swiftly without delay or tarrying. That gathering is easy for us. 50:44. He then informs that he knows what his enemies say, and that entails his requiting them for their words, since nothing is hidden from him, and he couples knowledge with power to make certain the requital. He then tells him that he is not set over them with coercive power, and has not been sent to compel them to Islam, and he commands him to remind through the Qur'an him who fears his warning, for he is the one who benefits from reminder. As for him who does not believe in meeting God, who does not fear his warning nor hope for his reward, he does not benefit from the reminder. So remind through the Qur'an whoever fears my warning. 50:45. Benefit. The Prophet saying to Umar, "And what makes you know? God may have looked upon the people of Badr and said, 'Do whatever you wish, for I have forgiven you.'" Its meaning has perplexed many people, for its outward sense seems to permit them any deeds and give them choice in whatever they wish, and that is impossible. So a group said among them, Ibn al-Jawz, "What is meant by 'do whatever you wish' is with respect to the past, not the future. Its estimation is, whatever deed has been yours, I have forgiven it." He said two things indicate this. First, had it been for the future, the response would have been, "I shall forgive you." Second, it would be an unqualified license regarding sins, and there is no basis for that. The reality of this answer is, I have forgiven you by virtue of this battle what has already preceded of your sins. But this is weak from two angles. First, the wording "do" resists this, for it is for futurity, not for the past. And his saying, "I have forgiven you," does not necessitate that "do" carry the same tense, for "I have forgiven" may be used to assert the certainty of forgiveness in the future, like his saying, "God's command has come," 16.1, or "On that day your sustainer will have come," 89.22, and similar. Second, the hadith itself repels it. Its occasion is the story of Hatib and his act of espionage against the Prophet, which is a sin that occurred after the Battle of Badr, not before it, and it is the very cause of the hadith, thus it is necessarily intended. What we deem, God knows best, is that this is a discourse addressed to people whom God knew would never abandon their religion but would die upon Islam, that they might commit some of what others commit of sins, but that he would not leave them persisting therein. Rather, he would grant them success for a sincere repentance, for seeking forgiveness, and for good deeds that efface the trace of that. They are singled out by this rather than others, because this has been realized in them that they are forgiven. Nor does this prevent that the forgiveness occurs by causes arising from them. Nor does it entail that they would neglect obligations in reliance upon forgiveness if forgiveness were obtained without perseverance upon compliance. Then there would be no need, thereafter, for prayer, fasting, pilgrimage, almsgiving, or striving an impossibility. Of the greatest of obligations is repentance after sin. Therefore, the guarantee of forgiveness does not entail neglecting the causes of forgiveness. Its like is his saying in another hadith, "A servant committed a sin and said, 'O Lord, I have committed a sin, so forgive me.' And he forgave him. Then he remained as God willed. Then committed a sin and said, 'O Lord, I have committed a sin, so forgive me.' And he forgave him. Then he remained as God willed, then committed a sin, and said, 'O Lord, I have committed a sin, so forgive me.' And he said, 'My servant has known that he has a Lord who forgives sin, and takes to task for it, so I have forgiven my servant, let him do as he wills.' This is no license or permission for what God has prohibited. Rather, it indicates that he continues to forgive him so long as he remains thus. Whenever he sins, he repents. That this servant is singled out with such a guarantee is because God knew he will not persist in sin, that whenever he sins, he repents. The ruling then generalizes to everyone whose condition is as his, but that servant in the hadith is assured of it, just as the people of Badr were assured. And likewise everyone whom the messenger of God gave glad tidings of the garden, or informed that he is forgiven. Neither he nor any of the companions understood from this a license to commit sins and neglect obligations. Rather, they were more diligent, more wary, more fearful after the glad tidings than before it, like the 10 who were given glad tidings of the garden. Al-Siddiq was intensely fearful and cautious, and likewise Umar. They knew that the unqualified glad tidings are conditioned by their conditions and by perseverance upon them until death, and conditioned by the absence of what prevents them. None of them understood that it was an open permission to do whatever deeds they wished. A sublime benefit, his saying exalted, is he. He it is who has made the earth subservient to you. Go, then, about its shoulders, and eat of his sustenance, and unto him will be the resurrection. 67:15. He informs that he made the earth docile, pliant to being trodden, ploughed, split, and built upon, not refractory and resisting those who intend such of it. He has told that he made it a cradle, a couch, a carpet, a resting place, that he spread it and smoothed it, that he brought forth from it its water and its pasture, that he stabilized it with mountains, that he traced through it pathways and roads, that he ran within it rivers and springs, that he blessed it and apportioned therein its sustenance. Of its blessings is that all animals and their provisions proceed from it. Of its blessings is that you deposit in it seed, and it returns it to you multiplied manifold. Of its blessings is that it bears offence upon its back, but brings forth from its belly the finest and most beneficial of things, concealing for you all that is unsightly, and bringing forth all that is fair. Of its blessings is that it hides the servant's off-putting remnants of body, covers them over, takes him in and shelters him, and brings forth for him his food and drink. It bears offence more than any other thing, and returns benefit more than any other, so nothing of dust is better than it, further from harm and nearer to good. The point. He has made for us the earth like a docile camel that turns wherever one leads it. And how beautiful his choice of its shoulders to mean its roads and pathways, after describing it as docile, so that the one who walks upon it treads its shoulders, the highest part of it. Hence some have explained shoulders as its mountains, as the shoulders of a human are his upper parts. They said this hints that walking its level places is even easier. Others said the shoulders are its sides and edges, hence the shoulders of a man, meaning his flanks. What appears to me is that what is meant by shoulders are the high parts, and that the ground upon which animals habitually walk is its higher face, not the face opposed to it. The surface of a sphere is its uppermost, and walking occurs on its surface. Again, his calling it shoulders befits the prior description, docile. He then commands them to eat of his provision, which he has deposited in it. He made it docile for them, spread it, and opened within it roads and paths by which they go, and he deposited in it their sustenance. Thus he mentions the preparation of the dwelling place for use, and turning about within it, going and coming, and eating of what he has deposited therein for the inhabitant. Then he alerts with, and unto him will be the resurrection, that we in this abode are not here as permanent dwellers nor residents. We have entered it as wayfarers. It ill becomes us to take it as a homeland and resting place. We have entered it to provision ourselves from it for the abode of permanence. It is a place of passage, not a place of abiding joy, a crossing and a transit, not a homeland. The verse thus contains indications of his lordship and oneness, his power, wisdom and kindness, a reminder of his favours and beneficence, and a warning against inclining toward the world and taking it as a homeland and resting place rather, that we hasten across it to his abode and his garden. For within this one verse God has encompassed, knowing him, affirming his oneness, reminding of his favours, urging forward along the way to him, preparing for the encounter with him and coming into his presence, and notifying that he will fold up this abode as though it had never been, and that he will revive its people after he has caused them to die, and unto him will be the resurrection. 67:15. Benefit. In the human being there are two powers, a cognitive contemplative power and a volitional practical power. Complete felicity depends on perfecting both. The perfection of the cognitive power is only by knowing one's originator and maker, knowing his names and attributes, knowing the path that leads to him, knowing its obstacles, and knowing one's own soul and its defects. By these 5 knowledges the perfection of his cognitive power is attained, and the most learned of people is he who is most knowing in these and most insightful regarding them. The perfection of the volitional practical power is only through guarding God's rights over the servant and standing by them with sincerity, truthfulness, goodwill, excellence, conformity, beholding God's grace upon him, and seeing his own shortcoming in rendering his due. Thus he is ashamed to present that service before him, for he knows it is below what he deserves, and far below that. And there is no path for him to complete these 2 powers save by God's aid. He is therefore compelled to seek his guidance unto the straight path, the path to which he has guided his friends and elect, and to ask him to spare him from departing that path, whether through corruption in his cognitive power, which yields misguidance, or in his volitional power, which yields wrath. Thus the perfection and felicity of the human being is not completed save by the sum of these matters, and Surat al-Fatiha contains them, arranged in the most perfect order. His saying, "All praise is God's alone, the sustainer of all the worlds, the most gracious, the dispenser of grace, master of the day of judgment," 124 comprises the first principle. Knowing the Lord Most High, his names, attributes, and acts. The names mentioned in this surah are the foundations of all the most beautiful names: God, Allah, the Sustainer, Rabb, and the Most Gracious, Al-Rahman. The name God contains the attributes of divinity, the Sustainer, the attributes of lordship, the Most Gracious, the attributes of beneficence, bounty, and kindness, whereby the meanings of his names revolve. His saying, "You alone do we worship, and you alone do we ask for help," 1.5 contains knowledge of the way that leads to him. It is none other than worshipping him alone by what he loves and is pleased with, and seeking his aid to worship him. His saying, "Guide us along the straight path." 1.6 contains clarification that there is no way for the servant to his felicity save by his uprightness upon the straight path, and that there is no way to uprightness save by his Lord's guiding him to it, just as there is no way to worship him save by his help. His saying, "Not of those who have incurred your wrath, nor of those who have gone astray." 1.7 clarifies the 2 extremes of deviation from the straight path. Deviation toward one side is deviation toward misguidance, which is corruption of knowledge and creed. Deviation toward the other side is deviation toward wrath, which is caused by corruption of intention and act. Thus, the beginning of the surah is mercy, its middle, guidance, and its end, bounty. A servant's portion of bounty is according to his portion of guidance, and his portion of guidance is according to his portion of mercy. In the end, all returns to his bounty and his mercy and bounty, and mercy are of the necessary entailments of his lordship. He is none but merciful and bestower. And this is demanded by his Godhead, for he is the true God, even if deniers deny and polytheists set up partners. Whoever realizes the meanings of Al-Fatiha in knowledge, realization, action, and state has attained the richest portion of perfection. His servanthood becomes the servanthood of the elect, those whose rank rises above the common of the devout. And God is the one from whom help is sought. Benefit. The Lord Most High calls his servants in the Qur'an to know him by two ways: by observing his creations and by pondering his signs and reflecting upon them. Those are his witness signs, these his heard and comprehended signs. The first kind is like his saying, "Behold, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the alternation of night and day, and the ships that run in the sea to man's benefit, there are signs." 2:164. And his saying, "Verily, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the alternation of night and day, are signs for those endowed with insight." 3.190. And this is abundant in the Qur'an. The second is like his saying, "Will they not then ponder the Qur'an?" 4.82. Also 47.24. And have they then never reflected upon this word? 23.68. And a blessed book which we have sent down unto you, so that they might ponder its verses. 38.29. And this too abounds. As for the created things, they point to his acts. The acts point to the attributes, for an act points to an actor, which necessitates his existence, power, will, and knowledge. For it is impossible that a chosen act proceed from a non-existent, or from one devoid of power, life, knowledge, and will. The varied specifications within created things point to the will of the actor, that his acting is not by blind nature, so as to be one and non-recurrent. The benefits and wise purposes and praiseworthy ends they contain point to his wisdom, exalted is he. The goodness, beneficence, and bounty they contain point to his mercy. The vengeance, retribution, and punishments they contain point to his wrath. The honour, nearness, and special care they contain point to his love. The degradation, distancing, and forsaking they contain point to his loathing and his anger. The originating of things in the utmost weakness and deficiency, then leading them to completion and perfection, points to the actuality of the return. The states of plants and animals and the courses of waters indicate the possibility of the return. The manifest traces of mercy and favour upon his creatures point to the veracity of the messengerships. The perfections that, if lacking, would render things deficient, point to the truth that he who grants those perfections is most worthy of them himself. Thus his creations are among the strongest of proofs for his attributes and the truth of what his messengers reported of him. The artifacts bear witness to the truth of the heard signs, and the heard signs call to inference from the crafted signs. Exalted is he who said, "We shall show them our signs upon the horizons and within themselves, until it becomes manifest to them that this is the truth." 41:53, i.e., that the Qur'an is the truth. He informs that he will surely show them of his witness signs, what makes clear to them that his recited signs are true. Then he informs that his testimony suffices for the truth of his report, by establishing proofs and evidences for the veracity of his messenger, so his signs bear witness to his truth, and he bears witness to his messenger's truth by means of his signs. He is both the witness and the witnessed for. He is the proof and the proven. He is his own proof unto himself. As some of the knowers said, "How could I seek a proof for him who is the proof of all things?" Whatever proof you sought, you found it less manifest than him. Hence the messengers said to their peoples, Is there any doubt about God? 14:10. For he is more known than any known, more evident than any proof. In truth, things are known by him, even if, in human reasoning, he is known by means of his acts and ordinances. Benefit. In the Musnad and in the Sahih of Abu Hatim, from Abdullah ibn Masud, the Messenger of God said, No servant is afflicted by worry or grief, and says, O God, I am your servant, son of your servant, son of your handmaid. My forelock is in your hand. Your decree over me runs its course. Your judgment upon me is just. I ask you by every name that is yours, by which you have named yourself, or revealed in your book, or taught to any of your creatures, or kept to yourself in the knowledge of the unseen with you, that you make the Qur'an the springtime of my heart, the light of my breast, the banisher of my sorrow, and the remover of my grief. Except that God removes his worry and grief, and replaces it with joy. They said, O Messenger of God, should we not learn these words? He said, Indeed, whoever hears them ought to learn them. This tremendous hadith comprises matters of knowledge, oneness, and servanthood. Among them, the supplicant begins by saying, I am your servant, son of your servant, son of your handmaid, which includes all those above him of his fathers and mothers, up to Adam and Eve. In this there is beseeching and humbling oneself before him, admitting that he is his own servant, and that his forefathers are his own servants, that the servant has no door besides the door of his master, his favour and his beneficence, and that if his master neglects him and abandons him, he perishes. None shelters him or inclines toward him, he is lost, most lost. Contained in this admission is, I have no independence from you for the blink of an eye. There is none to whom I may flee, or by whom I may be sheltered, other than my master, whose servant I am. Within it, too, is the confession that he is nurtured, governed, commanded, and forbidden, acting only by the rule of servanthood, not by the rule of choosing for himself. This is not the way of a servant, but of kings and free men. As for the servants, they are known purely by servanthood. These are the servants of obedience, attributed to him in his saying, Indeed, my servants, you shall have no power over them. 15:42. And his saying, And the servants of the All-Merciful are those who walk humbly upon the earth. 25:63. As for others, they are the servants of compulsion and lordship. Their attribution to him is like the attribution of other houses to a king's ownership, while the attribution of those special servants is like the attribution of the sacred house to him, his attributing the she-camel to himself, or his attributing the garden which is his abode to himself, and his attribution of the servanthood of his messenger in his saying, And if you are in doubt as to what we have bestowed upon our servant, 2:23, and limitless in his glory is he who carried his servant by night, 17.1, and when the servant of God stood up calling upon him, 72:19. Realizing the meaning of I am your servant entails obligating oneself to his servanthood, humility, submissiveness, penitence, compliance with his command and avoidance of his prohibition, continual neediness of him, seeking refuge with him, seeking his aid, trusting in him, taking him alone as one's sanctuary and shelter so that the heart does not attach to other than him in love, fear, or hope. It includes, I am your servant in every respect, small and great, living and dead, obedient and disobedient, sound and afflicted, with my spirit, heart, tongue, and limbs. It includes, my property and my very self belong to you for the servant, and what he owns belong to his master. It includes, "It is you who have bestowed upon me every blessing I enjoy. This is all from your grace upon your servant." It includes, "I do not dispose of what you have enabled me of my wealth and myself, except by your command, just as a slave does not dispose, save by the permission of his master." It includes, "I do not possess for myself any harm, nor benefit, nor death, nor life, nor resurrection." If that witnessing is sound in him, then he has truly said, "I am your servant." He then says, "My forelock is in your hand," meaning, you dispose of me as you will. I do not dispose of myself. How could one dispose of himself when his very self is in the hand of his Lord and Master, his forelock in his hand, his heart between two fingers of the All-Merciful, his life and death, felicity and wretchedness, well-being and affliction, all in his hand? The servant has nothing of it. He is in the grasp of his master, weaker than a weak, despised, owned one whose forelock is in the hand of a sovereign who dominates him, though the matter is even beyond that. When the servant witnesses that his forelock and the forelocks of all servants are in the hand of God alone, who directs them as he wills, he no longer fears them or hopes in them, or views them as owners rather, as own dominated, sustained ones others than them managing and disposing them. Whoever witnesses himself thus, his poverty and neediness to his Lord, becomes an abiding trait. And when he witnesses people in that way, he will not be in want of them, nor attach hope to them. Thus his oneness, his trust, and his servanthood become upright. For this reason, Hud said to his people, "Indeed, I have placed my trust in God, my sustainer and yours. There is no creature that he does not hold by its forelock. Verily, my sustainer is on a straight path." 1156. His saying, "Your decree over me runs its course, your judgment upon me is just," encompasses two matters. The first, the running of his decree upon his servant. The second, praising and declaring his justice. His is the dominion, and his is the praise. This is the meaning of his prophet Hud's words quoted above. After saying he holds by its forelock, he said, "My sustainer is on a straight path," meaning, with his being a sovereign, prevailing, disposing over his servants, holding their forelocks, he is upon a straight path, the justice by which he disposes of them, upon a straight path in his word and deed, his decree and his determination, his command and his prohibition, his reward and his punishment. His report is all truth, his decree all justice, his command all benefit, what he has prohibited all harm, his reward to those who deserve it out of grace and mercy, his punishment to those who deserve it out of justice and wisdom. He distinguished between decree, hukiem, and judgment, qada, assigning running, mada, to the decree, and justice, adl, to the judgment. His decree includes both religious lawful and cosmic creative rulings. Both run their course in the servant, prevailing over him whether he wills or not. The cosmic decree cannot be opposed. The religious decree may be opposed by disobedience. As for judgment, which is completion and consummation, that is after something has run its course and been executed. Hence, your judgment upon me is just, meaning the decree which you have completed and executed in your servant is just from you. As for the decree, it is what he decrees he may will to execute it or not. If it is a religious decree, it runs its course in the servant as obligation. If it is a cosmic one, if he executes it, it takes place. If he does not execute it, it is turned back from him. He alone decrees and executes. His is judgment and execution. His saying, "Your judgment upon me is just," includes all his judgments upon his servant in every respect, health and illness, wealth and poverty, pleasure and pain, life and death, punishment and forbearance, and all else. He exalted is, he said, "Whatever calamity befalls you is the fruit of what your own hands have wrought." 42:30. And And if evil befalls them, it is because of what their own hands have wrought, for, verily, man is ungrateful. 42:48. Everything he judges upon the servant is justice toward him. If it be asked, since in your view sin occurs by his decree and predestination, where then lies the face of justice in his decreeing it, while the justice of punishing it is apparent? This is a question of weight. On account of this, a faction claimed that justice is simply what is in fact decreed, and that injustice is in itself impossible. For injustice would mean disposing in the property of another, whereas all belongs to God, and thus whatever he does with his creation is sheer justice. Another faction contended, justice means that he does not punish for what he himself decreed, and predetermined, so, since he rightly punishes for sin, it follows, they say, that sin is not by his decree. Hence they found it hard to bring together justice and destiny, imagining that whoever affirms destiny cannot affirm justice, and whoever affirms justice cannot affirm destiny, just as it proved hard for them to combine God's oneness with the affirmation of his attributes. Thus they fancied they could not attest his oneness without denying his attributes, turning their monotheism into negation, and their justice into denial of destiny. As for the people of the Sunnah, they affirm both truths. Injustice in their understanding is placing a thing where it does not belong, such as punishing the obedient, or one without fault. And God has declared himself transcendent above that in many places in his book. Even when he leads astray whom he wills and decrees disobedience and delusion for whom he wills, that is pure justice, for he has placed misguidance and abandonment where they fittingly belong. Is he not among his most beautiful names the just, all his acts and judgments upright, true and sound? Moreover, he has made the ways clear, sent the messengers, revealed the scriptures, removed impediments, and enabled the means of guidance and obedience through hearing, sight, and reason. This is his justice. Then he grants success to whom he wills with special grace, desiring for that servant out of himself to aid and guide him. This is his bounty. Yet he withholds success from one unworthy of his guidance and favour, leaving him to himself without desiring for him out of himself to grant success. Thus he cuts off from him bounty, but does not deprive him of justice. This withholding is of two kinds. One, as a quid pro quo for a servant's turning away from him, preferring his enemy by obeying and siding with him, and forgetting his remembrance and gratitude. Such a one deserves to be abandoned and left to himself. The other, that he does not will it for him from the outset, knowing that this one will not recognize the worth of guidance, nor be grateful for it, nor praise him for it, nor love him. Thus he does not will it for him, because his receptacle is unfit. And thus we have tried some of them by means of others, so that they might say, Are these the ones upon whom God has bestowed his favour from among us? Does not God know best those who are grateful? 6:53. And, had God known any good in them, he would indeed have made them hear. 8:23. Hence, when he decrees upon these souls misguidance and sin, that is pure justice, just as when he decrees that the serpent be killed, or the scorpion, or the rabid dog. It is justice in their regard, even if they were created with such traits. We have elaborated this fully in our major work on decree and predestination. The point here is that the supplication, Your decree is carried out upon me, your judgment concerning me is just, refutes both factions. The Qadariyah, who deny the universality of God's decrees upon his servant and remove human acts from being by his decree, and the Jabriyah, who say that every decreed thing is justice, leaving no real meaning to your judgment is just, For with them all that can occur is just by definition, and injustice is what is intrinsically impossible, as if one had only said, "Your decree is carried out upon me," and no more. And in the words, "I beseech you by every name that is yours," he seeks nearness to him by all his names, those the servant knows, and those he does not. For these are the most beloved means of approach to him, since they are the gateways to his attributes and acts that his names denote. And, in his words, "Make the Qur'an the springtime of my heart and the light of my breast." Springtime is the life-giving rain by which the earth revives. Thus he likens the Qur'an to that rain, for hearts revive by it. God himself has thus likened it to rain, and he has brought together the water by which life is obtained, and the light by which illumination and radiance are attained, just as he brought them together in his word. He sends down water from the sky, whereupon the valleys flow, each according to its measure, and the flood carries swelling foam. 13:17. And in his word their parable is that of a person who kindled a fire. Then, when it lit up all around, God took away their light. 2:17. And then, or their parable is like a rain cloud from the sky. 2:19. And in his word, God is the light of the heavens and the earth. 24:35. And then, do you not see that God drives the clouds, then joins them together? 24:43. So the supplication gathers, asking for the life of the heart through the spring of the Qur'an, and the illumination of the breast through its light, so that life and light come together. Is he who was dead, and we gave him life, and set for him a light whereby he walks among people, like one lost in the darkness from which he cannot emerge. 6:122. And because the breast is wider than the heart, the light that enters it flows from it into the heart. Since light has reached that which is more expansive, it pervades what is narrower. And because the life of the body and all its limbs is by the life of the heart, life flows from the heart to the breast, and thence to the limbs. Thus he asked for life by its source, the spring. And because grief, anxiety, and sorrow opposed the life and illumination of the heart, he asked that their removal be by the Qur'an, for then they are less likely to return. If they pass by reason of health, worldly gain, status, spouse, or child, they return with the loss of those things. Whatever afflicts the heart, if it concerns the past, it engenders sorrow. If it concerns the future, it engenders anxiety, and if it concerns the present, it engenders grief. God knows best. Benefit. The most unsullied, manifest, luminous, noble, and exalted of all existence in essence and in worth, and the most capacious is the throne of the All-Merciful. Therefore it is fit for his ascending over it. And whatever is nearer to the throne is brighter, purer, and nobler than what is farther. Hence the garden of Al-Firdaus is the highest, noblest, most radiant, and most splendid of the gardens, due to its nearness to the throne, which is its roof, while whatever is farther is darker and narrower. Therefore the lowest of the low is the worst of places, and the narrowest and farthest from every good. God created the hearts and made them the locus of his knowledge, love, and will. They are the throne of the most exalted parable, that is, knowledge of him, love of him, and will directed to him. For those who do not believe in the hereafter is an evil parable, whereas for God is the most exalted parable, and he is the Almighty, the Wise. 16:60. And he it is who originates creation, then brings it forth anew, and that is easy for him. And his is the most exalted parable in the heavens and on earth, and he is the Almighty, the Wise. 30:27. And there is nothing like unto him. 42:11. This is of the exalted parable, and it is enthroned upon the heart of the believer. But unless the heart is the purest, cleanest, most fragrant, and farthest removed from every stain and filth, it is not fit for the enthronement of the exalted parable upon it as knowledge, love, and will. Then the lower parable of this world takes its seat upon it, love of it, will set upon it, attachment to it, so it narrows, darkens, and recedes from its own perfection and felicity. Thus hearts return to two hearts. A heart that is a throne of the All-Merciful in it are light, life, joy, gladness, delight, and stores of good, and a heart that is a throne of Satan. There are constriction and darkness, death, sorrow, grief, and anxiety, ever grieving over what has passed, worried over what is to come, and distressed in the present. It is related that the prophet said, "When light enters the heart, it expands and opens." They asked, "What is its sign, O messenger of God?" He said, "Turning to the abode of eternity, leaving the abode of delusion, and preparing for death before it descends." The light that enters the heart is but the radiance of the exalted parable, therefore it expands and opens. And if there is no knowledge of God and love of him in it, then its portion is darkness and constriction. Benefit. Contemplate the discourse of the Qur'an. You will find a king to whom belongs all sovereignty and all praise. The reins of all affairs are in his hand, issues flow from him, and their ends return to him. He is enthroned upon the seat of his dominion. Nothing in the reaches of his kingdom is hidden from him. He knows what lies within the souls of his servants. He is aware of their secrets and their public deeds. He alone administers the kingdom. He hears and sees. He gives and withholds. He rewards and punishes. He honors and abases. He creates and provides. He causes death and gives life. He measures, decrees, and disposes affairs. Descending from him are all matters, subtle and weighty, and to him they ascend. Not a particle stirs save by his leave. Not a leaf falls but that he knows it. Consider how he praises himself, glorifies himself, and lauds himself while he counsels his servants, shows them what holds their felicity and success, and invites them to it, and he warns them against what entails their ruin. He makes himself known to them through his names and attributes. He endears himself to them by his favours and blessings, reminding them of his bounties upon them, commanding them to deeds that warrant their completion, warning them from his retribution, telling them of what he has prepared for them of honour if they obey, and what he has prepared of punishment if they disobey. He informs them of his dealings with his friends and his enemies, and how the destinies of both turned out. He praises his friends for their righteous deeds and finest qualities, and reproaches his enemies for their evil deeds and ugly traits. He strikes parables. He diversifies proofs and evidences. He answers the sophistries of his enemies with the best of answers. He confirms the truthful and exposes the liar. He speaks the truth and guides to the way. He calls unto the abode of peace, detailing its qualities, its beauty, and its bliss. And he warns against the abode of ruin, detailing its torment, its ugliness, and its pains. He reminds his servants of their poverty unto him and their dire need of him from every aspect, that they have no independence of him for the blink of an eye. And he reminds them of his independence from them, and all existent things, that he is the self-sufficient in himself from everything besides him, while all besides him are poor unto him in themselves. No one attains an atom's weight of good, or more, save by his bounty and mercy, and no one is touched by an atom's weight of evil, or more, save by his justice and wisdom. From his discourse you witness his gentle remonstrance of his beloveds, yet withal he overlooks their slips, forgives their lapses, admits their excuses, repairs their corruption, wards off harm from them, defends them, succours them, undertakes their interests, rescues them from every distress, fulfills his promise to them. He is their guardian. There is no guardian for them but he. He is their protector against their enemy. What an excellent protector, and what an excellent helper. When hearts witness in the Qur'an such a sovereign, majestic, merciful, generous, beautiful, how could they not love him, vie for nearness to him, spend their breaths in endearing themselves to him, prefer his good pleasure to the good pleasure of all besides him? How could they not be incessant in his remembrance until his love, longing for him, and intimacy with him become their food, their nourishment, and their cure, so that without it they spoil and perish, and their life avails them not? Chapter Sin. The receptivity of any locus is conditioned by its being emptied of its contrary. As this holds true in substances and bodies, so it holds in beliefs and wills. If the heart is filled with falsehood in creed and love, then there remains no place in it for the creed of truth and its love. Likewise, when the tongue is busy with speech of no benefit, its owner cannot utter what benefits him unless he empties his tongue of falsehood. Similarly with the limbs, if they are occupied with other than obedience, they cannot be occupied with obedience until freed from its opposite. So too the heart preoccupied with love of other than God, intent upon it, longing for it, and taking intimacy with it, cannot be filled with love of God, intent upon him, loving him, and longing to meet him, save by emptying itself of attachment to other than him. Nor can the tongue move in his remembrance and the limbs in his service, save by emptying them of remembrance and service of other than him. If the heart is filled with preoccupation with created things, and with knowledge that does not benefit, there remains no place in it for preoccupation with God, knowledge of his names, attributes, rulings. The secret of this is that the ear of the heart is like the ear of the body. When it is turned toward other than God's discourse, there remains in it no turning or understanding for his discourse. And when it inclines to a love other than God, there remains no inclination toward loving him. When the heart speaks with other than his remembrance, no place remains for his remembrance, just like the tongue. Thus, in the authentic report, the prophet said, "To have the belly of one of you filled with pus until it ruptures is better for him than to have his belly filled with poetry," indicating that the belly can be filled with poetry. So too it can be filled with sophistries, doubts, fantasies, chimeras, non-existent constructs, knowledge that does not benefit, jests, frivolities, tales, and their like. When the heart is filled with that, and the truths of the Qur'an and knowledge by which lie its perfection and felicity come to it, they find no emptiness nor acceptance, and so they pass beyond it to another place, just like good counsel offered to a heart filled with its opposite. It finds no entry and is not received. It merely passes by, an itinerant, not a resident. Hence it was said, "Purify your heart from all besides us, you shall find us, for our precinct is sanctuary to every purified one. Patience is the talisman to the treasure of our union. Whoso unlocks this talisman attains its treasure, and in God is success." Benefit. Your rivalry in worldly increase distracts you. 102.1 to the end of the surah. This surah is devoted purely to warning, threat, and menace. Sufficient is it as an admonition for one who understands it. His saying, "distract you," means it busies you in a manner for which there is no valid excuse. To be distracted from a thing is to be occupied away from it. If by intent, one is morally accountable. If without intent, like his saying about the patent cloak, It just distracted me from my prayer. Then its doer is excused, and this is a kind of forgetfulness. In the hadith, he was distracted from the child, meaning his mind wandered. One says he busied himself with a thing and he turned away from it. Amusement pertains to the heart and play to the limbs. Hence they are often mentioned together. And so his saying, "Your rivalry in worldly increase distracts you," is stronger in censure than "your being busy has distracted you." For a person might engage his limbs in an act while his heart is not amused by it. But amusement is heedlessness and turning away. Rivalry in increase, takathur, is the mutual vying in multiplicity each party with the other. He left unmentioned what they vie for, intending thereby the indefinite, the general. Everything by which the servant vies with others, apart from obedience to God and his messenger, and what benefits his ultimate return, falls under this rivalry. Rivalry in everything: wealth, status, leadership, women, talk, even knowledge, especially when one does not need it. Rivalry in multiplying books and compositions, in multiplying questions, branching and generating them. And rivalry is when a man seeks to be more than another blameworthy, except in that which draws near to God. Therein rivalry is competition in good and racing toward it. In the authentic collection of Muslim from Abdullah ibn al-Shikhar, he came upon the Prophet while he was reciting, "Your rivalry in worldly increase distracts you." 102:1. And he said, "The son of Adam says, 'My wealth, my wealth.' And do you, O son of Adam, have any wealth other than what you have given in charity and thus sent ahead, what you have eaten and thus consumed, or what you have worn and thus worn out?" A note: whoever does not benefit by his sight will not benefit by his hearing. The servant has a veil between himself and God, and a veil between himself and people. Whoever tears the veil between himself and God, God will tear the veil between him and people. The servant has a lord he will meet, and a house he will inhabit. So he should seek to win the favour of his lord before he meets him, and build his house before he moves into it. Wasting time is more severe than death, for wasting time cuts you off from God and the hereafter, whereas death only cuts you off from this world and its people. All of this world, its beginning to its end, does not equal the grief of an hour. How then the grief of a lifetime? What you love today may bring what you dislike tomorrow, and what you dislike today may bring what you love tomorrow. The greatest profit in this world is to keep your soul at every hour occupied with what is most fitting for it and most beneficial to it in its return. How can he be rational who sells the garden with all within for desire of an hour? The Gnostic leaves this world without having satisfied himself of two matters, his weeping over himself and his praise of his Lord. If you fear a creature, you feel estranged from him and flee him. But if you fear the Lord, you find intimacy with him and draw near to him. If knowledge without practice benefited, God would not have condemned the rabbis of the people of the book. And if practice without sincerity benefited, he would not have condemned the hypocrites. Repel the stray thought. If you do not, it becomes a reflection. Repel the reflection. If you do not, it becomes a desire. Fight the desire. If you do not, it becomes a resolution and a firm intention. If you do not resist it, it becomes an action. If you do not counter it with its opposite, it becomes a habit, and leaving it becomes hard for you. God-wariness, taqwa, is of 3 degrees. 1. Guarding the heart and limbs from sins and prohibitions, this grants the servant his life. 2. Guarding them from disliked matters, this gives him his health and strength. 3. Guarding them from superfluities, and what does not concern, this brings him joy, delight, and gladness. When truth grows subtle and you defend it, your supporters grow few. You miss the fine point, and so you judge for the bold against the precise. With God do I attain all that I strive for, and reach no farther for me, and none among people to intercede. When I despair, and despair nearly cuts me off, hope comes hastening from the flank of despair. Whomever God creates for the garden, its gifts keep coming to him through hardships. And whomever he creates for the fire, its gifts keep coming to him through desires. When Adam sought everlasting life in the garden by way of the tree, he was punished by being made to leave it. And when Joseph sought to leave the prison by way of the cupbearer, he remained therein for some years. If a decree befalls the servant, what he dislikes, let him behold in it 6 stations. The station of Tawhid, namely, that God decreed it, willed it, and created it, and what God wills is, and what he does not will is not. The station of justice, that his decree is carried out, and his judgment is just. The station of mercy, that his mercy within this decree overcomes his wrath and retribution, and his mercy is its kernel. The station of wisdom, that his wisdom required it. He did not decree it in vain, nor judge it in jest. The station of praise, that to him belongs perfect praise for it, from all aspects. The station of servanthood, that he is a pure servant from every angle, upon whom the rulings and decrees of his Lord run. By virtue of his being his property and servant, he disposes of him under his decrees of creation, just as he disposes of him under his decrees of command. He is thus the place of flow for these rulings upon him. Lack of divine enabling, corrupt opinion, obscurity of truth, a diseased heart, dimmed remembrance, wasted time, people's aversion, estrangement between servant and Lord, unanswered supplication, a hardened heart, wiped out blessing in provision and lifespan, deprivation of knowledge, the garment of humiliation, the enemy's contempt, a constricted breast, bad companions who ruin the heart and waste time, prolonged worries and sorrows, straitened livelihood, and a clouded mind, all these are born of sin and heedlessness of God's remembrance, just as crops spring from water and burning from fire, and their opposites are born of obedience. Section Glad Tidings to the one who renders his Lord his due. He confesses to him his ignorance in knowing him, the flaws in his deeds, the defects of his soul, his neglect of his right, and his injustice in his dealings with him. If he seizes him for his sins, he sees his justice. If he does not seize him for them, he sees his grace. If he does a good deed, he sees it as a kindness and alms from him. If he accepts it, that is kindness and alms again. If he rejects it, it is because something like it would not be fit to face him. If he does an evil, he sees it as the result of God's leaving him to himself, his abandonment of him, and his withholding protection from him, and that is his justice. Thereby he sees his poverty to his Lord and his injustice to himself. If he forgives it, then by sheer beneficence, bounty, and generosity. The core of the matter is, he sees his Lord only as beneficent, and sees himself only as offending, remiss, or deficient. Thus all that pleases him he sees as the favour of his Lord upon him, and all that pains him he sees as from his own sins and God's justice in him. Lovers, when the dwellings of their beloveds are ruined, say, "Blessings upon those who dwelt there." So too the lover, when years pass and she is under the earth, recalls then the excellence of her obedience in this world, her endearment to him, so his mercy is renewed, and his blessings upon those who once inhabited those decayed bodies. Benefit jealousy, ghaira, is of two kinds: jealousy for the beloved and jealousy from the rival. Jealousy for the beloved is your zeal to guard him. Jealousy from the rival is your aversion to one who would share him with you. The former cannot be complete without the latter, and it is praiseworthy when the beloved is one with whom shared love is ugly, such as a created being. As for one whose love is enhanced by sharing like love of God's messenger or of a knower, indeed the nearest beloved, the sublime, there is no jealousy of rivalry toward him. That would be envy. The praiseworthy jealousy toward him is that the lover guard his love for him, lest he divert it to another, or guard it from the gaze of others, lest they corrupt it, or guard his deeds, lest in them there be anything for other than his beloved, or guard them, lest they be tainted by what his beloved dislikes, showing off, self-admiration, fondness for others to witness them, or heedlessness from beholding his favour upon him in them. In sum, his jealousy requires that all his states, deeds, and acts be for God alone. Likewise, he is jealous over his hours, that not an hour pass, that is not in the good pleasure of his beloved. Such is the servant's jealousy from the rival that blocks him from his beloved's pleasure. As for the beloved's jealousy over him, it is his dislike that the servant's heart turn away from his love to the love of another, such that another shares with him in it. For this reason, God's jealousy is that his servant commit what he has forbidden, and on account of his jealousy he prohibited indecency apparent and hidden, for the creation are his slaves and bondmaids. He is jealous for his bondmaids, as a master is jealous for his maidservants, yet to God belongs the loftiest parable. He is jealous for his slaves, that their love be not directed to other than him, in such a way that their love drives them to idolize images and to commit indecency with them. Whoever magnifies God's majesty in his heart so that he cannot disobey him, God grants him majesty in the hearts of creation, so that they do not humiliate him. When the roots of gnosis take hold in the soil of the heart, the tree of love grows therein. When it becomes firm and strong, it bears the fruit of obedience unceasingly. That tree brings forth its fruit at all times by the permission of its Lord. The first stations of the journeying folk: remember God with unceasing remembrance, and glorify him morning and evening. The middle station: he it is who blesses you, together with his angels, so as to lead you out of the darkness into the light. And the last, their greeting on the day when they meet him, is peace. The land of the primordial Fitra is spacious, receptive to whatever is planted in it. Plant therein the tree of faith and God-wariness, it yields the sweetness of eternity. Plant therein the tree of ignorance and caprice, and you will harvest bitter fruit. Return to God and seek him with your eye, your ear, your heart, and your tongue. Do not flee from him with these four, for any who return to him, by his enabling, return by way of them, and any who fled from him, by his abandoning, fled by way of them. The one granted grace hears, sees, speaks, and acts by his master. The one forsaken acts out of himself and his caprice. An image of how obedience is born, grows, and increases, like a pit planted in the earth. Then it becomes a tree. Then it bears fruit. You eat its fruit and plant its pits, and every time it bears, you harvest and you plant. Likewise with the cascade of sins. Let the intelligent ponder this image. The reward of a good deed is a good deed that follows it. The punishment for an evil is an evil that follows it. It is no wonder that a slave lives abased in devotion to God, never tiring of his service given his need and poverty. The true wonder is that the master endears himself to his slave by all forms of beneficence, wooing him with all kinds of grace, though he is utterly without need of him. It suffices for your honour that you are his servant, and it suffices for your pride that he is your Lord. Section Beware of Sins. They stripped away the honour of prostrate yourselves, and they brought forth the writ of get out. A single glance, how it yielded the fever of 1,000 anxious years. Still he writes, with the blood of remorse, lines of sorrow in tales, sending them with the breaths of regret until the rescript came. He accepted his repentance. Satan rejoiced at Adam's descent from the garden, not realizing that the diver's plunge into the depths is the prelude to his ascent bearing a pearl. How vast the gulf between God's word to Adam, I am placing on earth a vicegerent, 2:30, and his word to Satan, go then, and whoever among them follows you indeed, hell shall be your recompense, a full recompense. 17:63. What befell Adam was what was intended by his very existence. O Adam, do not grieve at my saying to you, leave it, for to you and your righteous offspring have I bequeathed it in trust. O Adam, formerly you entered upon me as kings enter upon kings. Today you enter upon me as servants enter upon kings. Do not grieve at a draught of slip, it was the cause of your wisdom. I have extracted from you the ailment of self-admiration, and clothed you with the robe of servitude. But it may well be that you dislike a thing. O Adam, I did not transfer your allotment to another, only suspended your possession of it, to perfect its cultivation for you, and to send to the workers their wages. Their sides shun their beds. By God, what availed him at the time of his disobedience? Not the honour that was granted by prostrate yourselves, nor the nobility of he taught Adam, nor the special distinction of that which I created with my 2 hands, nor the pride of, and I breathed into him of my spirit, 15:29. What availed him was only his humility. Our Lord, we have wronged ourselves, 7:23. When he donned the cuirass of Tawhid on the body of gratitude, the enemy's arrow struck him in a non-vital place. He was wounded, but the balm of brokenness was applied, and he returned as he had been, the wounded man rising as though no fainting had touched him. Section The Fleet. She-camels of salvation are saddled for the one desired. The steps of the banished are bound with fetters. The gales of destiny blew over the desert of existence, turning beings upside down, the star of good rose. Then, when the wind grew still, behold, Abu Talib drowning in the depth of destruction, and Salman upon the shore of safety. Al-Walad ibn al-Mughira leading his people into the wasteland, Suhaib arriving with the caravan of Rome, Al-Najash in the land of Abyssinia proclaiming, Labbaika Allahumma labbaik, and Bilal calling, prayer is better than sleep. Abu Jahl, meanwhile, slumbers in the stupor of opposition. When there had been decreed for Salman a foreordainment of precedence, the guide of divine enabling lifted him from the way of his forefathers' Magianism. He turned to debate his father about the religion of shirk. When Salman overpowered him by proof, the father had nothing in reply but chains. This is the answer the people of falsehood have passed down since the day they altered the truth. It is how Pharaoh answered Moses, if you take any god other than me, and how the Jamia answered Imam Ahmad when they brought forth the whips, and how the people of innovation answered Sheikh al-Islam when they called him to prison. Here we are, upon their traces. A guest came down upon him. We shall indeed test you. And by honouring him he attained the rank. Salman is one of us, of the people of the house. He heard that a caravan was preparing for travel. He stole himself away from his father without cutting the ties of kin, mounted the beast of resolve, seeking to attain the quest of felicity. He dived into the sea of search to lay hold of the peerless pearl of being. He pledged himself to the service of the guides as the humbled stand waiting at doors. When the monks sensed that their kingdom was ending, they entrusted to him the banners of proof regarding the prophethood of our prophet, saying, "His time has overshadowed. Beware lest you go astray." He set out with a company who did not show him care, and they sold him for a paltry price, some counted dirhams, and his purchaser was a Jewish man of Madna. When he beheld the black lava field, the fire of longing blazed in his breast. The owner of the house did not know the ecstasy of the wayfarer. He endured the long hours of waiting until the bringer of good tidings arrived with the advent of the bringer of good tidings. Salman was atop a palm. Anxiety nearly cast him down. Had not prudence held him as it was on the day? She almost disclosed him, had we not bound fast her heart. 28:10. He hastened to descend to meet the caravan of glad tidings. His state spoke. "O friends from Najd, halt with me on the hilltops, for a breeze has blown from those abodes." His master cried out, "Malik, return to your work." He replied, "How can I return when in your house lies all my work?" His state then sang, "O my two friends know, by God, I am not of you when one of the house of Layla sends me a sign." When he met the messenger, he placed the monk's copy beside the book of the origin, and found them in concord. "O Muhammad, you desire Abu Talib, and we desire Salman." When Abu Talib was asked his name, he said, "I am Abd Manaf," and when he traced his lineage, he boasted of forefathers, and when wealth was mentioned, he counted camels. But when Salman was asked his name, he said, "A servant of God," asked his lineage, "A son of Islam," asked his wealth, poverty, asked his shop, the mosque, asked his earning, patience, asked his garment, God wariness and humility, asked his pillow, sleep. Asked his pride, "Salman is one of us." Asked his aim, "They seek his face." 1828. Asked his journey to the garden, and asked his guide on the way, the Imam of creation, guide of the leaders, "When we travel by night, and you are our Imam, your fragrant remembrance suffices as driver to our mounts. If we lose the way and find no guide, the light of your face is enough as a guide." Sins are wounds, and a wound may strike at a vital place. If your reason frees itself from the tyranny of your passions, sovereignty returns to it. You entered the house of desire and gambled with your life. When a look that is unlawful presents itself, know that it is the spark that kindles war. Veil yourself from it by the barrier of "tell the believing men to lower their gaze." Thus you are safe from the strike. And God spared the believers the fighting. 33:25. The sea of caprice, if it surges, drowns, and the most fearsome opening for the swimmer is to open his eyes beneath the water. No one is more honoured than the one alone, who, in his grave, is provided for by his deeds. They keep him company. Some are luxuriating in a garden in the grave, others, God's slave, find the grave their prison. According to a man's worth are the trials that befall him, and he's known by patience at what afflicts him. If his patience is slight regarding what he should fear, then what he may hope for is likewise slight. How many a crop is cut before ripeness, what then of the field already ripe for harvest? Buy your soul, for the market is open, and the price is present. There must be a season of heedlessness and a sleep of passion, yet be a light sleeper, for the watchmen of the city cry, "Dawn draws near." The light of reason shines in the night of passion, and the highway of rectitude appears. In that light the keen-sighted glimpses the outcomes of affairs. With resolve, leave this narrow courtyard packed with afflictions toward that spacious expanse wherein lies what no eye has beheld. There no sought thing is hard, and no beloved is lost. O seller of yourself for the love of one whose affection drains, whose union hurts, whose beauty fades, you have sold the most precious merchandise for a paltry price, as if you never knew the worth of the wares, nor the baseness of the price. When you arrive on the day of mutual loss and gain, it will be clear to you the loss lay in the contract of sale. There is no God but God. God himself is the buyer. The price is the garden. The broker is the messenger. Will you be content to sell it for a trifling fragment of what in its entirety is not worth the wing of a gnat? If a thing, in all its sum, is not worth a gnat's wing in the sight of the one whose slave you are, yet owning a fragment of it, owns all of you, what then is your worth in such a state in his sight? You sold yourself for this while he had already bid for you with his goodly promises, yet your buyer's love for you has departed. O enfeebled of resolve, where are you when the path is a path of toil? On it Adam laboured, for it Noah wept. Into the fire the friend was cast. Ishmael was laid down for sacrifice. Joseph was sold for a paltry price and spent a few years in prison. Zachariah was sawn asunder. John, the chasemaster, was slain. Job endured affliction. David's weeping overflowed all measure. Jesus walked among the wild, and Muhammad bore poverty and every kind of hurt, while you preen and primp yourself with diversion and play. O her abode, sorrow be witness, though its visitation is near. Between it and us lie terrors untold. War is raging, and you stand unarmed in the spectator's stand. Should you move your stirrup, it is toward defeat. Whoever has not braved the blaze of noon in seeking eminence will not recline beneath honour's shade. Sulayma says, "Had you stayed in our land and not turned me away, I would have circled about for the sake of abiding." It was said to a devout one, "How long will you weary your soul?" He said, "I seek its rest." O crafty self, what deception is in your delay? Faith after the robe of well-being, and both are fashioned in opposing the Creator. Do not deny the taking away. Whoever uses the benefactor's favour in what he hates deserves to be divested of it. The brides of existent things have adorned themselves for the onlookers, so that he may test which of them prefers them over the brides of the hereafter. Whoever knows the degree of disparity prefers what is worthy of preference. When the beauties of the cosmos unveiled themselves, they turned to me and said, "Come to us." So I feigned blindness, as though I had not seen them when I beheld my goal close at hand. The knowers are stars. In the breeze of their resolves they are ever-travelling planets. There is no Saturn among them. You who have swerved from their highway, be at least at the far end of the caravan. And if you must sleep, then sleep upon the road, for the commander watches over the rearguard. It was said to Al-Hasan, "The folk have outpaced us on black steeds, while we ride hobbled donkeys." He replied, "If you are upon their road, how swift will be your catching up." Benefit. Whoever loses his intimacy with God among people and finds it in solitude is truthful but weak. Whoever finds it among people yet loses it in seclusion is ailing. Whoever loses it both among people and in seclusion is dead banished. Whoever finds it in seclusion and among people is the true lover, strong in his state. Whoever's opening came in solitude, his increase is only from there. Whoever's opening came in serving, advising and guiding people, his increase is with them. And whoever's opening is to stand with God's will wherever he sets him, and in whatever he employs him, his increase is in seclusion and among people. The noblest state is that you choose for yourself no state except what he chooses for you and establishes you in. Be with his will from you, not with your will from him. The lamps of pure hearts by their original nature are radiant before the codes of law. Their oil almost gives light, even though no fire touches it. 24:35. A priest affirmed the oneness, though he had not seen the messenger, while Ibn Ubay disbelieved, though he prayed with him in the mosque. With patience, and often no water, and how many a thirsty one is amidst the flood. Precedent knowledge of Moses's prophethood and Asiya's faith. His ark was carried to her house, so a child came, sundered from his mother, to a woman without a child. How many lessons are in this story? How many children Pharaoh slaughtered, seeking Moses, while the tongue of destiny said, "We will raise him only in your very lap." Dul-Bijadain was an orphan in youth. His uncle provided for him. His soul yearned to follow the messenger. He prepared to depart, but remnants of illness held him back, so he sat awaiting his uncle. When his health was complete, his patience ran out. The conscience of longing called out to him, "How long will you hold her back, complaining of constraint? Perhaps if you let her go, she will find a path." He said, "Uncle, I have long awaited your Islam, yet I see no zeal in you." The uncle said, "By God, if you embrace Islam, I will strip you of all I gave you." The tongue of yearning cried out, "A single gaze from Muhammad is dearer to me than this world and all it holds." Were the mad lover told, "Layla and her meeting, do you want that, or the world, and what is hidden in it?" He would say, "Dust from the dust of her sandals is more delicious to my soul, and a better cure for its ailment." When he stripped for the journey to the messenger, his uncle stripped him of his clothes. His mother handed him a coarse shawl. He tore it in two for the travel of union. He tied his waist with one half and cloaked himself with the other. When the herald of struggle called out, he was content to be in the tail of the beloved ones. For the lover does not see the road as long, since the goal aids him. May God carry the longing one to the sanctuary he seeks, and carry to the edges of the sanctuary whoever seeks them. When he breathed his last, the messenger descended, softened his grave, and kept saying, "O God, this evening I am well pleased with him, so be well pleased with him." Ibn Masud cried out, "Would that I had been the one in that grave." O effeminate of resolve, the least rank on the board is the pawn, but once it rises, it becomes a farazan. A sage saw a stout horse turning the water-wheel. He said, "If this caravan pranced so, the feet of resolve in the path would outstrip it. The barrage of impediments would break before them." Obstacles are trials by which the truthful is distinguished from the liar. If you plunge into them, they turn into helpers that deliver you to your goal. Section: The world is like a wanton woman. She does not stay with a husband she courts suitors so that they may admire her, nor does she accept cuckoldry. I weighed her beauty against her deeds, and found her charm could not keep faith with her ugliness. She swore to us she would not betray our covenants, as if she swore to us she would never fulfill them. Journeying in pursuit of her is travel through a land of predators. Swimming in her is swimming in a crocodile's pond. What delights in her is itself the very thing that will be mourned. Her pains are born of her pleasures, and her sorrows of her joys. Desires that were, in youth, sweet to their people became, in hoary age, pure affliction. The bird of mere nature sees the grain. The eye of reason sees the snare, but the eye of passion is blind. The eye of contentment grows dull to every fault, as the eye of anger makes shortcomings blaze. The lusts have been embellished for the eyes of temperament. Those who believe in the unseen avert their gaze, while their followers fall into the desert of regrets. And those are upon guidance from their Lord, and it is they who are successful. 2:5. But to these it is said, "Eat and enjoy yourselves a little indeed, you are criminals." 77:46. When the graced ones knew the measure of worldly life and how brief the stay in it, they did not pay its dues to caprice, but sought the life that endures. When they awoke from the slumber of heedlessness, they reclaimed in earnest what the enemy had plundered during idle times. When the road seemed long, they glimpsed the destination, so the far became near. And whenever worldly life grew sweet, they refreshed their hearts by remembering, "This is your day, the one you were promised." 21:103. A caravan that travelled through the night, while the sky's canopy still stood over every dust-stained riser, they chanted the refrains of resolve, and the earth between them seemed to vanish. Thus their night travel rose upon the ascents of firm intention. The night stars showed them what to follow across the shoulders of Sirius and the brows of the Pleiades. When battle in the field of earnestness grew fierce, they shattered the spears of largesse upon the breasts of noble deeds. Section. Among the most wondrous things is that you know him, yet do not love him, that you hear his caller, yet delay to respond, that you know the profit of dealing with him, yet you work for another, that you know the severity of his wrath, yet you expose yourself to it, that you taste the pain of estrangement in disobeying him, yet you do not seek the intimacy of obeying him, that you feel the constriction of the heart when plunging into talk other than his wild discourse about him, yet you do not yearn for the expansion of the breast by remembering him and communing with him, that you taste the torment when the heart clings to other than him, yet you do not flee from it to the bliss of turning to him and returning to him. More wondrous than all this is your knowledge that you cannot do without him, and that you are in utmost need of him, yet you turn away from him and seek what distances you from him. Benefit: a servant takes what is forbidden only from two directions. First, ill opinion of his Lord, thinking that if he obeyed him and preferred him, he would not grant him a better lawful alternative. Second, he may know that whoever leaves something for God, he grants him better than it, and yet his desire overcomes his patience, and his caprice overcomes his reason. The first comes from weak knowledge, the second from weak intellect and insight. Yahya ibn Mu'adh said, "Whoever gathers his heart wholly upon God in supplication is not turned back." I say, when one's heart gathers upon him, the urgency of need is sincere and strong, and hope is mighty, his supplication is scarcely rejected. Section. When the wakeful saw the sovereignty of the world over its people, the delusion of hope upon its votaries, the hold of Satan, and the leadership of the commanding soul, they sought refuge in the fortress of pleading and fleeing to God, like a terrified slave taking sanctuary in his master's courtyard. The pleasures of the world are like fantasies. The ignorant see only the surface, but the one of reason sees what is behind the veil. What they craved glimmered to them. When they stretched out hands to seize it, the sight of insight saw the trap beating shut. They took wing with the feathers of prudence and set their course to the second departure. Ah, if only my people knew. 36:26. They glanced at existence and understood the intended. They determined upon the journey before the journey and girded themselves for travel along the even path. People are occupied with overflowings while they traverse the wastes. The little birds of passion are in the snare, awaiting slaughter. 2 foxes fell into a net. One said to the other, "Where shall we meet after this?" He replied, "In 2 days in the tannery." By God, the days are but a dream, so let them awaken. They have already lost the prize. What has passed of the world is dreams. What remains is hopes, and time is squandered between the two. How can he be safe who has a wife that shows him no mercy, a child that excuses him not, a neighbour whom he cannot trust, a companion who gives no sincere counsel, a partner who does not do him justice, an enemy who never sleeps from hostility, a soul commanding to evil, a world bedizened, a recalcitrant caprice, an overpowering appetite, a tyrannical anger, a devil who beautifies, and weakness that dominates him? If God takes charge of him and draws him to himself, all these are subdued. But if he leaves him to himself and hands him over to his soul, they unite against him, and that is perdition. When people turned away from judging by the book and the sunnah, from submitting to them and believing them sufficient, when they turned instead to opinions, analogies, preferences, and the sayings of sheikhs, there came upon them corruption in their natures, darkness in their hearts, turbidity in their understanding, and diminution in their intellects. These ailments enveloped them and prevailed until the young were raised upon them and the old grew old by them. They did not even perceive it as a ruse. Then another era came in which innovations took the place of the sunnahs, the soul took the place of reason, caprice the place of right guidance, misguidance the place of guidance, the objectionable the place of the recognized, ignorance the place of knowledge, ostentation the place of sincerity, falsehood the place of truth, flattery the place of counsel, and oppression the place of justice. So power and ascendancy came to these matters, and their folk became the ones pointed to, while formerly their opposites, and their folk were the ones pointed to. When you see the rule of these matters advancing, their banners raised, and their cavalry mounted, then the belly of the earth, by God, is better than its surface. The crags of mountains are better than the plains. To mix with beasts is safer than to mix with men. The earth shudders, the sky darkens, and corruption appears on land and sea because of the wrongdoer's oppression. Blessings depart, bounties dwindle, the beasts grow gaunt, and life grows muddy from the debauchery of the wicked. The light of day and the darkness of night weep because of foul deeds and monstrous acts. The noble recorders and the guardians complain to their lord of the abundance of obscenities, the sway of the objectionable, and the spread of the ugly. By God, this portends a flood of chastisement whose cloud already gathers, and heralds a night of affliction whose gloom grows thick. Depart from the road of this torrent with a sincere repentance, as long as repentance is possible, and its gate remains open, for soon you will see the gate shut, the pledge seized, and the wing clipped. And those who have done wrong will come to know to what kind of return they will be returned. 26:27. Buy your soul today. The market is open, the price is present, the wares are cheap. A day will come upon that market and those wares when you can attain neither little nor much. That is the day of mutual loss and gain, the day when the wrongdoer bites his 2 hands. Qur'an 64:9, 25-27. If you do not journey with the provisions of God consciousness, and on the day of gathering you see those who provisioned themselves, you will regret that you were not like them, and that you did not prepare as they prepared. Work without sincerity and adherence is like a traveller filling his sack with sand. It weighs him down and brings no benefit. When you load your heart with worldly worries and burdens, while neglecting its daily devotions, which are its sustenance and life, you are like a traveller who loads his mount beyond its capacity, and does not feed it how swiftly it will halt beneath him. A scatterer of resolves spends his life bewildered, neither achieving triumph, nor tasting even a defeat. Does the hurried driver possess his own command? Not every pace is pace for solitary she-camels. Slowly, slowly, with the feet of your mounts, for beneath them lie foreheads and cheeks you tread. Whoever beholds the sweetness of well-being finds the bitterness of patience light. The goal is first in decree, last in existence, a beginning in reason's eye, an end in the stations of arrival. Habit has bred your inability. If your aspirations soared to the Lord of high degrees, the lights of resolve would dawn upon you. People differ by ambition, not by form. The lowly ambition drops you into the pit of excuses. Between you and the victors stands the mountain of desire. They descended before it, and you camped behind it. Fold up a stage of advantage, and you will catch the caravan. The world is a racetrack. Dust has been raised, the leader is hidden. People in the course are between rider, runner, and owners of hobbled donkeys. Soon, when the dust clears, you will see, was it a charger under you or a donkey? In our nature is veracity. Cordial restraint is its fitting cure. The thief of greed walks only in the darkness of passion. The grain of desire lies beneath the trap of ruin. Think of the slaughter, and patience will be easy. The surer the hope of attaining the goal, the stronger the striving, and the keener the vigilance, lest it slip away. The miser is a pauper who earns no reward for his poverty. Better to thirst under harm than to drink from a fountain of favours. The freeborn woman would starve rather than debase herself. Ask none but your master. A slave's asking other than his lord is a reproach upon him. The sapling of seclusion bears the fruit of intimacy. Shun whatever does not remain with you. Make intimate the one who never parts from you. The isolation of the ignorant is corruption. The isolation of the learned goes forth shod and with waterskin in hand. When reason and certainty gather in the house of reflection, and thought is summoned, and between them there runs a whispered converse. A tale has come to you, never wearisome to hear. Its scattered prose and woven rhyme are sweet to us. When the soul recalls it, its toil departs, and from the heart the darkness of grief is gone. If a foolish word bursts from your enemy, do not match it with its like. You would only pollinate it, and the offspring of quarrel is ill-begotten. Your zeal for your lower self is the trace of ignorance of it. If you truly knew it, you would aid your adversary against it. If you strike a spark of vengeance from the fire of anger, the first to burn is the striker. Fasten your anger with the chain of forbearance. It is a hound, which, if loosed, will ravage. Whoever preceded by a prior grace of felicity is led to the proof before seeking it. When destiny intends a person well, it sows in the soil of his heart the seed of accord, torfok, waters it with longing and awe, stations over it the watch of self-observation, and assigns to it the sentinel of knowledge until the crop stands upon its stalks. When the star of aspiration rises in the night of idleness, and the moon of resolve follows it, the land of the heart shines with its Lord's light. When night draws on, sleep and wakefulness wrestle. Fear and longing lead the vanguard of wakefulness, while sloth and laxity stand in the regiment of heedlessness. When determination charges, it strikes the right wing and routs the troops of neglect. By dawn the shares are allotted and the booty cooled for its people. Night travel cannot be borne except by one who has thinned his mounts with hunger, swift camels at first, bearers of provisions at last. Do not grow weary of standing at the door, even if you are driven away. Do not cease presenting your excuses, even if you are turned back. If the door is opened for the accepted before you, then storm it as brazen impostors do, and enter as the gate-crasher at a feast, and stretch out your hand. Give us alms. O you who seek to open the gates of livelihood without the key of God-consciousness, how is it that you broaden the road of sin and then complain of narrow provision? Had you stood with the demands of God-consciousness, the goals of disobedience would not have eluded you. A single sin may bar the gate of earning. The servant is truly deprived of provision by a sin he commits. By God, whenever I came to you as a visitor, I found the earth folding itself beneath my feet, and whenever my resolve turned away from your door, I stumbled over the train of my own robe. Souls in bodies are like birds in cages. Not every cage is set for nesting, some are made for racing. Whoever among the workers wishes to know his rank with the sovereign, let him look at what task he assigns him, and with what work he occupies him. Be a child of the hereafter, not a child of the world, for the child follows the mother. The world is not worth the steps it takes you to reach it, so how can you run after it? The world is carrion. Lions do not fall upon carrion. The world is a bridge, the hereafter a homeland, and longings are only sought in homelands. Gathering with brethren is of two kinds. One, gathering for the soul's sociability, and to while away time its harm outweighs its benefit, and its least ill is that it corrupts the heart and squanders time. 2. Gathering to cooperate for salvation and to enjoin truth and patience, this is among the greatest and most beneficial gains. Yet it has 3 afflictions. First, mutual self-adornment. Second, talk and mixing beyond need. Third, that it becomes a craving and a habit that cuts one off from the goal. In sum, gatherings and mixing are a pollination either for the commanding soul or for the tranquil heart. The result follows the pollination. Whoever seeks the right pollination, his fruit is wholesome. So too with spirits, the good take their pollination from the angel, the foul from Satan. By his wisdom, God has made the pure for the pure, and the pure for the pure, and the reverse. This is a principle. In contingent existence, not a single cause acts by itself. No cause affects at all, except with another cause conjoined to it, and the absence of a hindrance. This holds for visible causes and for unseen, intangible causes. The sun's effect on animal and plant life depends on other causes, the presence of a receptive locus, and further causes that join that cause. Likewise, the coming of a child depends on numerous causes beyond the coupling of the male. So it is with all causes and their effects. Whatever is feared or hoped for among created things at most, it is but a part of a cause that is not independent in effect. None effects independently without dependence on other than itself, none but God, the One, the Subduer. None then should be hoped or feared beside him. This is a decisive proof that attaching hope and fear to other than him is vain. For even if you suppose a cause independent in effect, its causal power would still be from other than it not from itself. It has no power of its own to act. There is no might and no power except with God. All might is in his hand, all power is his. The might and power for which the creature is hoped or feared belong to God in truth and are in his hand. How then can one fear or hope in one who has no might and no power? Indeed, fearing and hoping in creatures is a cause for loss, and for the descent of what is hated upon the one who fears or hopes in them. In proportion to your fear of other than God, you are given over to it, and in proportion to your hope in other than Him, you are deprived. This is the condition of all creatures, even if most neither know it nor live it. What God wills comes to be inevitably. What He does not will does not come to be, even if all creation agreed upon it. Tawhid is the refuge of His enemies and His friends. For His enemies, it delivers them from the distresses and hardships of this world. When they embark on a ship, they call upon God, making religion sincerely His. But when He delivers them to land, behold, they ascribe partners. 29:65. For His friends, it delivers them from the distresses and hardships of this world and the next. Thus did Jonah flee to it, and God saved him from those layered darknesses. Thus did the followers of the messengers flee to it, and they were delivered by it from what punished the idolaters in this world, and from what is prepared for them in the next. When Pharaoh fled to it at the moment of beholding destruction, and when drowning overtook him, it did not avail him, for faith at the moment of witnessing is not accepted. This is God's way among His servants. Nothing repels the hardships of the world like tawhid. The supplication of distress is with tawhid. The supplication of the man of the fish, never is it invoked by the distressed, but that God relieves him, was tawhid. Nothing casts into the great distresses but shirk. Nothing rescues from them but tawhid. It is creation's refuge, sanctuary, fortress, and succor, and by God is success. Benefit, delight follows love. It strengthens with its strength and weakens with its weakness. The stronger the longing for the beloved and the yearning toward Him, the more complete the delight in reaching Him. Love and yearning follow knowledge and knowing. The more perfect the knowledge of Him, the more complete the love. Since the perfection of bliss in the hereafter and the perfection of delight return to knowledge and love, whoever more deeply knows God, His names and attributes, and His way, loves Him more. And his delight in nearness, in beholding His face, and in hearing His word, is more complete. Every other delight, bliss, happiness and brightness, compared to that, is but a drop in an ocean. How then could one of sound mind prefer a weak, brief delight, laced with pains, to a mighty, everlasting delight without end? A servant's perfection is according to these two powers, knowledge and love. The best knowledge is knowledge of God, the highest love is love of Him, and the most complete delight is according to them. God is the one whose help is sought. Principle: the seeker of God and the abode of the hereafter cannot set straight his journey and quest without two imprisonments, imprisoning his heart within his quest and his sort, and imprisoning it from turning toward other than Him, imprisoning his tongue from what does not benefit, and binding it to God's remembrance and to what increases his faith and knowledge, imprisoning his limbs from sins and appetites, and binding them to obligations and recommendations. He does not leave this prison until he meets his Lord, who then releases him from confinement into the widest, sweetest expanse. If he cannot be patient with these two imprisonments, and flees from them to the expanse of desires, that will lead him to the dreadful prison at his departure from this world. Everyone leaving this world is either being released from prison or going to prison. By God's grace is success. Ibn Aun bade a man farewell and said, "Hold fast to God-consciousness, for the God-conscious never knows loneliness." Zayd ibn Aslam said, "It used to be said, whoever is mindful of God, people will love him even if they dislike it." Sufyan said to Ibn Abadib, "If you are mindful of God, He will suffice you against people. If you are mindful of people, they will not avail you against God at all. Solomon, son of David, said, "We were given what people were given and what they were not given. We were taught what people were taught and what they were not taught. And we found nothing better than being mindful of God in secret and in public justice, in anger and in pleasure, and moderation in poverty and in wealth." In Al-Imam Ahmad's transmission of a divine saying, "No creature seeks refuge in a creature besides me, but that I cut off from him the means of the heavens and the earth. If he asks me, I do not give him. If he calls me, I do not answer him. If he seeks my forgiveness, I do not forgive him. And no creature seeks refuge in me away from my creation, but that I guarantee for him the provision of the heavens and the earth. If he asks me, I give him. If he calls me, I answer him. If he seeks my forgiveness, I forgive him." A noble benefit. The Prophet joined together God consciousness and good character. For God consciousness sets right what is between the servant and his Lord, while good character sets right what is between him and people. God consciousness draws God's love to him. Good character draws people's love to him. A noble benefit. Between the servant and God and the garden there is a bridge cut by two steps, a step away from his self and a step away from creation. He drops his self and cancels it in what is between him and people. He drops people and cancels them in what is between him and God. He turns only to the one who points him to God and to the path that leads to him. A preacher cried out to the companions, "The reckoning of mankind has drawn near." 21:1. Their hearts trembled in fear. From caution their eyes flowed, valleys ran each according to its measure. The world adorned herself for Allah. He said, "You are thrice divorced, there is no return to you." One pronouncement would have sufficed by the law, yet he made it thrice, lest caprice imagine a possible return. His sound religion and healthy nature recoiled from the intermediary. How could it not, when he is among the narrators of the Hadith? God's curse is upon the intermediary. There is no place of seclusion in this abode, so make it within yourself. You will surely be pulled by the pulling cords. Know them and beware of them. Distractions will not harm you if you are inwardly alone while outwardly among them. The light of truth is brighter than the sun. It is no wonder if the bats of inward sight grow dazed by it. The path to God is empty of skeptics and of those who follow lusts. It is inhabited by people of certainty and patience. They stand on the path like landmarks. And we made of them leaders guiding by our command when they had patience and were certain of our signs. 32:24. Principle. The testimony, "There is no God but God" at death has a mighty effect in expiating sins and nullifying them. It is the testimony of a servant who is certain of it, knowing its content. His desires have died. His rebellious soul has softened, submitted after its refusal and resistance, turned after its turning away, humbled after its pride. Greed for the world and its success has left him. He stands between the hands of his true Lord, originator and master in the most abject state he has known, in the greatest hope for his pardon, forgiveness, and mercy. Tawhid has been purified in him by the severing of the causes of shirk and the certainty of its falseness. The internal disputations that busied him are gone. His concern unites upon the one he is certain he will soon come to and return to. He turns his face wholly toward him. With heart, spirit, and concern he comes to him. He surrenders to him alone, outward and inward. His private self and public self are one. He says there is no God but God, sincerely, from his heart, and his heart has been purified of attachment to other than him, and of turning to what is beside him. The world has left his heart entirely. He stands upon the brink of arrival. The fires of desire have died. His heart fills with the hereafter. It is before his eyes, and the world is behind his back. That sincere testimony is the seal of his deeds. It cleanses him of sins and ushers him to his Lord, for he has met his Lord with a truthful, pure testimony, whose outward matches its inward, and whose secret matches its open. Had this testimony occurred to him in days of health as it does at death, he would have grown estranged from the world and its people, fled to God away from people, and found intimacy in him beyond all else. But he testified while his heart was full of passions, love of life and its causes, while his soul was crammed with self-seeking and turning to other than God. Had he been purified in life as he is at death, another story would be told, and another life lived other than the bestial. God is the one whose help is sought. What mastery has one over himself, whose forelock is in God's hand, whose soul is in his hand, whose heart is between two of his fingers? He turns it how he wills, whose life and death are in his hand, whose happiness and wretchedness are in his hand, whose movements and stillness, words and deeds are by his permission and will. He does not move except by his leave. He does not act except by his will. If he leaves him to himself, he leaves him to incapacity, lowliness, neglect, sin, and fault. If he leaves him to other than himself, he leaves him to one who owns no harm or benefit for him, nor death, nor life, nor resurrection. If he withdraws from him, his enemy takes possession of him and makes him his prisoner. He cannot dispense with him for the blink of an eye. He is in utter need of him, with every breath, in every atom of his being, inward and outward. His poverty toward him is total, yet he lags behind him, turns away from him, and makes himself detested to him by disobedience, even as he has utter need of him from every side. He has made remembrance of him a thing forgotten, and put him behind his back, while to him is his return, and before him is his standing. Free your mind to care for what you have been commanded with. Do not preoccupy it with what has been guaranteed for you. Provision and term are twin companions, guaranteed. As long as the term remains, provision will come. If he blocks one path to you by his wisdom, he opens another by his mercy, more beneficial to you. Consider the state of the fetus. Nourishment comes to it as blood by a single path, the umbilical cord. When it comes forth from its mother and that path is cut, he opens two paths and runs to it through them, a provision more delicious and purer than the first. Pure milk, easy to swallow. When the term of nursing is complete and those two paths are cut by weaning, he opens four paths more complete, two foods and two drinks. The foods are animal and plant, the drinks are waters and milks, and what is added to them of benefits and delights. When he dies, these four paths are cut off, but if he is felicitous, God opens to him 8 paths, the 8 gates of the garden. He enters through whichever of them he wills. Thus does the Lord, exalted is he not, prevent his faithful servant from any worldly thing, but that he gives him better and more beneficial in its stead. This is not for other than the believer. He denies the base, low share, and is not pleased with it for him, so that he may grant him the higher, precious share. But the servant, because he is ignorant of his own good, and ignorant of the generosity, wisdom, and gentleness of his Lord, does not know the difference between what he was denied and what is stored up for him. He is enamoured of the immediate, even if base, and has little desire for the ultimate, even if high. Were the servant fair toward his Lord, and how far from him is fairness, he would know that his favour upon him in denying him worldly delights and luxuries is greater than his favour in giving him of them. He denies him only to give him, he tries him only to heal him, he tests him only to purify him, he causes him to die only to give him life. He brings him into this abode only to prepare from it for arrival to him, and to travel the road that leads to him. He made the night and the day a succession for whoever desires to remember or to be grateful. 25:62. But the wrongdoers refuse nothing but disbelief, and God is the one whose help is sought. Whoever knows himself occupies himself with rectifying it, away from people's faults. Whoever knows his Lord occupies himself with him, away from his own desires. The most beneficial deed, to be hidden from people by sincerity, and hidden from yourself by witnessing the favour so that you see neither yourself in it nor creation. People enter the fire through 3 gates. A gate of doubt that begets scepticism in God's religion. A gate of desire that begets preferring caprice over his obedience and good pleasure. And a gate of anger that begets aggression against his creation. The roots of all sins are 3. Arrogance, which cast Iblis where it cast him. Greed, which drove Adam out of the garden. Envy, which emboldened one of Adam's sons against his brother. Whoever is protected from the evils of these 3 is protected from evil. Disbelief springs from arrogance, disobedience from greed, and tyranny and injustice from envy. By his wisdom, God made every part of the human being, outer and inner, an instrument for something. When it is used for that, it is its perfection. The eye is for seeing, the ear for hearing, the nose for smelling, the tongue for speech, the genitals for coupling, the hand for grasping, the foot for walking, the heart for tawhud and knowing, the spirit for love, the intellect for reflecting and considering the outcomes of religious and worldly matters, preferring what should be preferred and neglecting what should be neglected. The greatest loser in trade is he who busies himself with himself away from God, greater still, he who busies himself with people away from his own soul. In the Sunan, from the hadith of Abu Sa'ad raised to the Prophet, when the son of Adam awakens, all his limbs humble themselves before the tongue, saying, "Be mindful of God, for we are only by you. If you are upright, we are upright. If you swerve, we swerve." His saying, "they humble themselves," means they submit. In the report, when the companions entered upon the Negus, they did not humble themselves to him, i.e., they did not prostrate nor abase themselves, and Amr ibn al-As said to the king, "They do not abase themselves to you." The limbs submit to the tongue, because it is the envoy of the heart, its interpreter, and the mediator between it and the limbs. Their saying, "We are only by you," means our salvation is by you, and our ruin is by you. Hence, if you are upright, we are upright. If you swerve, we swerve. Section. In the Prophet's words, "Be conscious of God, and be graceful in your seeking," he brought together the welfare of this world and the next. The bliss and delights of both are attained only through God consciousness, the ease of heart and body, and the abandonment of anxious preoccupation, fierce greed, toil, obstinacy, grinding effort, and misery in chasing the world for the world is best attained with poise and moderation in seeking. Thus, whoever is mindful of God wins the sweetness and bliss of the hereafter, and whoever is graceful in seeking is spared the bitterness and worries of this life, and God's help is sought. The world proclaimed itself aloud, "If among this creation there were any who would hear, How many who trusted in life has it ruined, and how many gatherers has it scattered what they gathered? Benefit. The Prophet joined between sin and debt, for sin entails loss in the hereafter, while debt entails loss in the world. Benefit. He exalted is he said, "As for those who strive for us, we shall surely guide them onto our ways." Qur'an 29:69. He, glorified be he, made guidance contingent on striving. Hence, the most perfectly guided are the most striving. And the most obligatory striving is the striving against the self, desire, Satan, and the world. Whoever strives against these four for God, God will guide him to the paths of his good pleasure that lead to his garden. And whoever abandons striving is deprived of guidance to the extent that he neglects it. Al-Junaid said, "Those who strive against their passions in us through repentance, we shall surely guide them to the paths of sincerity." One cannot truly wage outward battle against his enemy unless he first wages battle against these inner foes. He who is granted victory over them is granted victory over his enemy, and he who is overcome by them, his enemy overcomes him. Section God, glorified be he, has cast enmity between Satan and the angel, enmity between reason and desire, enmity between the commanding self and the heart. He has tried the servant thereby, gathered these adversaries around him, and supplied each party with troops and allies. The war thus remains back and forth between the two camps until one of them prevails and subdues the other. If the turn belongs to the heart, reason, and the angel, then there is gladness and bliss, delight and radiance, joy, coolness of the eye, a wholesome life, expansion of the breast, and the winning of rich spoils. But if the turn belongs to the self, desire, and Satan, there descend anxieties and griefs, sorrows and distresses, constriction of the breast, and the imprisonment of the angel within. What think you of a king overpowered by his enemy, torn from his throne, then taken captive and confined? Cut off from his treasuries and storehouses, his attendants and servants made to serve his adversary, while he does not stir to avenge himself, nor call for help, nor appeal to the one who can rescue him. Above this captive king is a sovereign king, irresistible, never overcome, all subduing, never subdued, almighty, never abased, who is sent to him. If you seek my succor, I shall succor you. If you call on me, I shall answer you. If you take refuge in me, I shall take up your cause. If you flee unto me and take shelter with me, I shall empower you over your enemy and place him under your control. Should that captive king say, "My foe has tightly bound me, fastened my shackles, strengthened my chains, and prevented me from rising towards you, fleeing unto you, and making my way to your door. If you were to send me a detachment from your host to loosen my bonds, break my chains, and take me out of his prison, then I could reach your door. Otherwise I cannot leave my cell nor shatter my fetters." If he says this as a pretext against the summons of that supreme sovereign and out of complacency with his state under his enemy, then the supreme king will abandon him to himself and leave him to what he has chosen. But if he says this in utter neediness, manifesting his helplessness and lowliness, and affirms that he is too weak to walk to him on his own, too powerless to escape his enemy's prison by his own strength, and that the completion of his favour to him, as he has sent him this message, would be to aid him with his hosts and attendants, to secure his deliverance, break the door of his prison, and shatter his chains, then, if he does that for him, he has indeed perfected his grace upon him. And if he leaves him, he has not wronged him, nor withheld from him a right that was his. Rather, his praise and wisdom required depriving him, and leaving him in his prison, above all when he knows that the prison is his own, and that this enemy who imprisoned him is but a slave among his slaves, whose forelock is in his hand, who can act only by his leave and will. Hence the captive looks neither towards him, nor fears him, nor imagines that he holds any authority. He holds neither benefit nor harm. Rather, the captive looks to his master, he who manages his affair and holds that enemy's forelock in his hand. He singles him out with fear and hope, entreaty and refuge, longing and awe, whereupon the hosts of victory and triumph descend upon him. The loftiest aspiration in seeking knowledge is to seek the knowledge of the Book and the Sunnah, to understand what God and his messenger intend, to know the bounds of what has been sent down. The poorest aspiration among seekers of knowledge is to confine one's zeal to tracking down rare oddities and hypothetical cases that have not happened and are not occurring, or to make one's aim the mere knowledge of differences and the cataloguing of people's sayings, with no zeal to know which of those sayings is sound. Rarely does one of these profit by his knowledge. The loftiest aspiration in the domain of intent is for one's aim to be bound to the love of God, and to stand with what he has commanded and loves. Its lowest is for one's aim to be fixed on what he himself wants from God, so that he worships him for his own aims, not for God's aims. The first wants God and wants what God wants. The second wants from God while being empty of what God wants. Scholars of evil sit at the gate of paradise. By their words they invite people to it, while by their deeds they invite people to the fire. Whenever their words say to the people, "Come," their actions say, "Pay them no heed." For had what they called to been true, they would have been the first to respond. In image they are guides, in reality highwaymen. If God alone is your portion and your desire, then every grace comes to you and draws near its kinds, advancing to greet you. But if your portion is what you gain from him, grace is withheld, for it is in his hand, and is but a deed among his deeds. If he comes to you, it comes to you by way of corollary. If grace itself is your goal, you will not attain God as a corollary. And if you had once known him and found intimacy with him, then fell from that to seeking mere grace, he may deprive you of him as a chastisement, so that you lose both God and grace. Section When the messenger of God came out from the siege of the enemy, he entered the encirclement of victory. The hands of his scouting parties roamed with triumph on the frontiers. His mention flew to every horizon. People in relation to him became three groups: those who believed in him, those who made peace with him, and those who feared him. He cast the seed of patience in the field, so be patient as were the messengers endowed with firmness. Qur'an 46:35. And soon the branches quivered with lavender, and sacred limits are requited. Qur'an 2:194. He entered Mecca with an entry such as none had before him nor after him, surrounded by the emigrants and the helpers, with nothing visible but their eyes, the companions upon their ranks, the angels above their heads, Gabriel going between him and his Lord. The inviolability of his sanctuary made lawful for him something he permitted no one but him. When he set side by side that day with the day, and when those who disbelieve plotted against you to restrain you, or to kill you, or to expel you, Qur'an 8:30, and they expelled him, one of two, when the two were in the cave, he entered while his beard touched the pommel of his saddle, in humility and lowliness before him who had clothed him in the robe of this might, towards which all creation lifted their heads, and the necks of kings were stretched. He entered Mecca as a supported, victorious sovereign. Bilal's heel rose above the Kaaba, he who once had been dragged in the heat of the desert upon the coals of persecution, crying then, "One, one." Now he unfolded before the people the silks that had been folded away since that day, and raised his voice with the call to prayer. Tribes from every direction answered him. They came converging on the sound, entering into God's religion in multitudes. Qur'an 110, 1-2. Previously they had come one by one. When the messenger sat upon the pulpit of might, never again descending from it, the necks of kings were outstretched in submission to him. Some handed him the keys of their lands. Some asked him for a truce and peace. Some agreed to pay tribute in humility. Some gathered and readied for war, not realizing that this would only increase the store of his spoils and deliver their captives into his hand. When his victory was complete, and he had conveyed the message and discharged the trust, there came to him the royal writ. Behold, we have laid open before you a manifest victory, so that God may forgive you what was foregone of your fault and what was yet to come, and complete his favour upon you, and guide you onto a straight path, and that God may grant you a mighty help. Qur'an 48, 1-3. Then came the decree. When God's help comes and victory, and you see people entering God's religion in multitudes. Qur'an 110, 1-2. Thereupon the messenger from his Lord came to grant him the choice between remaining in this world and meeting him, and he chose to meet his Lord in yearning for him. The gardens adorned themselves for the day his noble soul would arrive, not like the adornment of a city for a king's coming. If the throne of the All-Merciful thrills with joy at the death of some hater among his followers, then what of the coming of the Spirit of the Master of Creation? O you who affiliate yourself with any portal other than this, and stand at any door but this on the day of gathering, you shall know which inward state will be yours, the day when the secrets are laid bare. Qur'an 86:9. Section O, you deluded by idle hopes. Iblis was cursed and cast down from the station of honour for failing to bow once. Adam was expelled from the garden for a single morsel he took. The murderer was veiled from it after seeing it with his own eyes for a palmful of blood. The adulterer was decreed to be killed in the most grievous manner for the insertion of a fingertip where it was not lawful. The back of the slanderer was commanded to be lashed for a single defamatory word, and the drunkard for a single drop of intoxication. A limb of yours is severed for 3 dirhams, so do not feel safe that he might imprison you in the fire for one of your disobediences, and he does not fear any consequence. Qur'an 91:15. A woman entered the fire because of a cat, and a man may utter a word to which he gives no weight that hurls him into the fire farther than the distance between east and west, and a man may obey God for 60 years, yet at the time of death act unjustly in his bequest, and thus his final deed seals evil for him, and he enters the fire. Life is judged by its ending, and deeds by their seals. He who breaks his prayer by an act before the salutation nullifies what has passed of it. He who breaks his fasting by eating before the sun sets loses all of it in vain. And he who does evil in the last of his life meets his Lord in that very state. Had you but sent ahead one single morsel, you would have found it, but the bane is your greed. How often has reward come hastening to you, stopped at the door, then been turned away by the porter, soon, perhaps, maybe. How can there be success between a faith that is deficient, a hope that is excessive? An illness with neither physician nor visitor, a desire wide awake and a reason fast asleep. He drifts heedlessly in his flood, dull in his intoxication, swimming in the sea of his ignorance, estranged from his Lord, familiar with his creatures, the mention of people his diversion and his food, the mention of God his constraint and his death. Of him Only a small part belongs to God of his exterior, his heart, and his certitude to another. May none but you remain in him, no trace by which blame could find its way to him. Section the first of creation was the pen, that it might write the decrees before their coming into being. Adam was made the last of creatures, and in that are wisdoms. 1. The dwelling is prepared before its inhabitant. 2. He is the very end for which all other things were created, the heavens and the earth, the sun and the moon, the land and the sea. 3. The most skillful craftsman seals his work with its most perfect and ultimate form, just as he begins it with its foundation and principles. 4. Souls are ever aspiring to endings and consummations. Hence Moses said to the sorcerers, "Throw down what you intend to throw." Qur'an 10:80. So that when the people saw their deed, they eagerly awaited what would come after it. 5. God glorified, be he delayed, the best of books, prophets, and communities to the end of time, and made the hereafter better than the first life, endings more perfect than beginnings. What is the distance between the angels saying to the messenger, "Read," he answering, "I am not one who reads," and his saying, "Today I have perfected your religion for you," Qur'an 5:3. 6. He, exalted is he, gathered what he had dispersed in the universe within Adam. So he is the small world, containing what the great world contains. 7. He is the quintessence and fruit of existence. It suited that his creation be after the other existence. 8. Out of honour for him, his Creator made ready his interests, needs, instruments of livelihood, and means of life, so that when he lifted his head, all of that was present and ready. 9. He wished to manifest Adam's nobility and excellence over the other creatures. Thus he put them before him in creation. And when he fashioned Adam and commanded them to bow to him, his superiority and nobility appeared by knowledge and recognition. When he fell into sin, the angels thought that excellence abrogated. They had not seen the servanthood of repentance hidden within. When he repented to his Lord and brought forth that worship, the angels knew that God has in his creation a secret none but he knows. 10. As he began the creation of this world with the pen, the finest harmony is that he should end it with the creation of man. For the pen is the instrument of knowledge, and man is the knower. Hence God manifested Adam's superiority over the angels by the knowledge with which he distinguished him from them. Consider how he wrote Adam's excuse before his descent to earth, and made the angels aware of his virtue and nobility. How he spoke his name with honour before his coming into being. "Behold, I am placing upon earth one who shall inherit authority." Qur'an 2:30. Consider how he marked him with vicegerency and investiture of authority before his existence, and how he established his excuse before the descent by saying, "On earth." Qur'an 2:30. The lover prepares his beloved's excuse before his lapse. When he fashioned him, he cast him at the gate of paradise for 40 years, for the way of the lover is to stand at the beloved's door. He flung him into the path of lowliness, not yet anything. Qur'an 76.1. Lest he be vain the day it would be said, "Prostrate yourselves." Iblis used to circle his inanimate form and marvel at it. "For some matter you have been created." Then he would enter from his mouth and go out his hind part, saying, "If I am empowered over you, I will surely destroy you, and if you are empowered over me, I shall disobey you." He did not know that his destruction would be at Adam's hand. He saw gathered mud and scorned it. When that clay was formed a body, the disease of envy crept into him. When the spirit was breathed into him, the envier died. When the carpet of honor was spread for Adam, and the creatures were presented before him, the claimants, and we hymn your praise, were brought before the judge. Tell me their names, alluding to Qur'an 2:31. While the advocate had hidden his proofs from them and taught Adam, so the heads of claim were bowed upon the breasts of acknowledgment. The herald of preference rose in the assemblies of the angels, calling, "Prostrate." So purify yourselves from the discourse of claim, and we with the water of excuse in the vessel of "we have no knowledge." Qur'an 2:32. They prostrated in the purity of submission. Iblis stood aside, not prostrating he was impure, stained with the filth of objection, and his impurity admitted of no purification, for it was of the essence. When Adam's perfection was complete, God said, "A beauty spot must be set upon this face." Prostrate, and the decree ran toward a sin, that the effect of servanthood in lowliness may be made plain. O Adam, had I overlooked that morsel for you, the enviers would have said, "How could one of appetite be preferred who could not bear a single tree?" Were it not for your descent, no sighs would have risen in the breaths, nor would the couriers of the night have descended with "Is there one who asks?" Nor would the fragrances of fasting have spread, nor the sweet scent of a fasting mouth. It was then made clear that the eating was not prompted by greed. O Adam, your laughter in the garden was for you, but your tears in the abode of duty are for us. He whom my honour breaks, my bounty restores, and the robe of might best suits the body of contrition. I am with those whose hearts are shattered for my sake. That morsel kept recurring in his children until its sickness prevailed upon them. So the subtle, the all-aware, sent them the cure at the hands of the physicians of existence. Thus, when there comes to you guidance from me, then whoever follows my guidance shall not go astray, nor come to grief. Qur'an 20:123. The divine physician protected them by prohibitions, preserved their strength by commands, and purged their corrupt humours through repentance, and health came from every side. O you who have squandered your strength and not preserved it, who have mixed during your illness, neither abstaining nor enduring the bitterness of purging, do not marvel at how near destruction has come. The disease is carrying you to ruin. If destiny had aided you, and you had aided the physician against yourself by abstaining from a paltry desire, you would have gained every manner of delight and every sort of joy. But the vapour of desire has veiled the eye of your insight, and you thought prudence was to trade a promise for cash. What a blind insight! You shunned the patience of an hour and bore the disgrace of eternity. You traversed the desert to seek the world that is itself leaving you, and you sat still from the journey to the hereafter toward which you are being driven. When you see a man buying the worthless with the precious, selling the magnificent for the trivial, know that he is a fool. Section. When Adam preserved the essence of servanthood, his sin did not invalidate it. O child of Adam, were you to meet me with the earth filled with sins, yet meet me without ascribing any partner to me, I would meet you with the like of it in forgiveness. For the master knew that his servant's sin was not willed as defiance of his Lord, nor an affront to his wisdom. So he taught him how to apologize. Then Adam received from his Lord words, and he turned towards him. Qur'an 2:37. The servant does not mean by his disobedience to oppose his master, nor to be insolent towards his sacred things. Rather, he is overcome by his nature. His soul and Satan beautify the deed to him. His passion compels him. He relies on God's pardon and hopes for forgiveness. That is from the side of the servant. As for the side of lordship, it is the flow of the decree, the manifestation of the majesty of lordship and the lowliness of servanthood, the perfection of need, and the appearance of the effects of the most beautiful names, the pardoner, the forgiving, the oft-returning, the forbearing for him who comes repentant, regretful, and the avenger, the just, the one of stern might for him who persists and clings to insolence. He glorified be, he wants his servant to witness his uniqueness in perfection, and the servant's deficiency and need of him, to behold the perfection of his power and might, of his forgiveness and pardon and mercy, the perfection of his benevolence, covering and forbearance, that his mercy towards him is pure grace without any counterclaim. Were he not to envelop him in his mercy and bounty, he would inevitably perish. How many a wisdom lies in the decree of sin! How many benefits and mercies accrue to the servant if his repentance is made real! Repentance after sin is like medicine for the sick. How often has an illness become the very cause of health? Perhaps your reproach its end is praised, and oft the bodies are made sound by pains. Were it not for the decree of sin, the child of Adam would perish of self-admiration. A sin that breaks his pride is dearer to God than an obedience that swells his conceit. The lamp of victory descends only into the candlestick of brokenness. One does not ennoble the self by anything as by humiliating it, nor honour it as by abasing it, nor give it rest as by tiring it. I shall tire my soul, or else I'll come upon repose, for the soul's lowliness lies in the soul's true nobility. Nor does one fill it save by emptying it, nor make it safe save by scaring it, nor bring it intimate companionship save by estranging it from all other than its originator and maker, nor quicken it save by mortifying it. The life of souls is their dying. Whoever wills to live, let him then die. The draught of desire is sweet, but it leaves choking. Whoso remembers the trap strangling will find the bait easy to forsake. O you ensnared in the meshes of passion, summon a leap of resolute will, and the net is torn. Destiny must pass, so incline to peace. Unto God belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth, and he asked you for a single grain as a loan, but you withheld it. He created 7 seas, and he wanted from you 1 tear, but your eye withholds. Letting the gaze roam engraves in the heart the image of what is seen. Yet the heart is a Kaaba, and the worshipped does not accept the crowding of idols. This world's pleasures are like a sooty maid who has claimed you. The wide-eyed maidens of paradise marvel at your ill choice over them. But when the whirlwind of passion rises, it blows sand into the eye of insight, such that the path is hidden. Glory be to God. The garden has adorned itself for its suitors, and they have striven to assemble its dowry. The Lord of Majesty has made himself known to the lovers by his names and attributes, and they have laboured for the meeting, yet you are busy with carrion. May none but you have in him a heart, while his tongue is yours with a lying love. Gnosis is a carpet upon which none treads but those brought near. Love is a chant that none truly sings except a lover, smitten. Love is a pool in a desert. No beaten road leads to it, hence few are its drinkers. The lover flees to solitude and seclusion with his beloved, finds intimacy in his remembrance, like the fish that flees to water, like the child to his mother. I slip out from among the houses, that perhaps I may whisper to the heart of you in solitary secret. There is no rest for the worshipper but under the tree of tuber, no settling for the lover but on the day of increase. Busy yourself with him in life, and what comes after death he will suffice you for. O you who spend the capital of your lifetime in opposing your beloved and being far from him, none of your enemies harms you as you harm yourself. What can your enemies reach in a fool that he has not already reached by his own self? The lofty aspiration is that of one who prepares himself to meet the beloved, who sends ahead the offerings before the meeting and rejoices at arrival. Send ahead for yourselves, and be conscious of God, and know that you shall meet him, and give glad tidings to the believers. Qur'an 2:23. By God, your enemy did not attack you until the protector turned away from you. Do not imagine that Satan prevailed, rather, the guardian withdrew. Beware your own self. No affliction ever struck you but through it. Do not make peace with it by God. None has honoured it who has not humiliated it, nor ennobled it who has not abased it, nor set it aright who has not broken it, nor given it rest who has not opposed it, nor made it safe who has not frightened it, nor made it joyful who has not first made it weep. Glory be to God. Your outward is adorned in the raiment of piety, while your inward is a vessel for the wine of desire. Each time you perfume the garment, the scent of intoxicant rises from beneath it. The truthful draw away from you, and the depraved gather to you. The thief of desire enters upon you while you are in the angle of devotion. Seeing no rebuff from you, he persists until he leads you out from the mosque. Be true in seeking the aid has reached you. A man said to Maruf, "Teach me love." He replied, "Love does not come by teaching. It is yearning that points to the place of annihilation if it does not return youth upon meeting his beloved." The wonder is not that he said, "They love him," but that he said, "He loves them." The wonder is not a poor one loving a benefactor, rather, a benefactor loving a poor one. Section The Qur'an is the word of God. In it, God has manifested himself to his servants through his attributes. At times he manifests in the garb of awe, majesty and grandeur, so necks bow, souls are humbled, voices hush, and arrogance melts as salt in water. At times he manifests in the attributes of beauty and perfection, the perfection of names, the beauty of attributes, the beauty of acts, pointing to the perfection of the essence, so that the love of what the servant has come to know of his beauty and perfection consumes the heart's entire capacity for love. The heart becomes void of all but his love. When the jealous ones would fasten that love to another, the heart, and inward, reject it utterly. They would have the heart forget you, but nature refuses the courier's burden. Thus the love of him becomes a nature, not an affectation. When he manifests in the attributes of mercy, kindness, gentleness and grace, the servant's hope is stirred, his expectation expands, his yearning grows. He moves towards his Lord with the camel song of hope driving his caravan. The stronger the hope, the more earnest the deed. Like the sower who, the more he hopes for harvest, the more thickly he sows his land. And if his hope weakens, he sows little. When he manifests in the attributes of justice, vengeance, anger, wrath and punishment, the commanding self is cowed. Its forces of desire, rage, play, dalliance, and greed for the unlawful are broken or weakened. The reins of its recklessness are drawn in, and the mount brings the heart its portion of fear, awe, and caution. When he manifests in the attributes of command and prohibition, covenant and counsel, sending messengers and revealing books, setting forth the laws, the force of compliance is stirred. Carrying out his commands, conveying them, enjoining them upon one another, remembering and recalling them, confirming the report, fulfilling the demand, and shunning the prohibition. When he manifests in the attribute of hearing, seeing and knowing, the force of shame is stirred. He is ashamed before his Lord to be seen where he hates, to be heard saying what he hates, or to harbour in his secret what he condemns, so that his movements, words, and thoughts are weighed on the scale of the law, not left neglected under the sway of nature and passion. When he manifests in the attributes of sufficiency, guardianship, and the management of his servants' interests, bringing their provisions to them, repelling calamities from them, granting victory to his friends, protecting them, granting them his special accompaniment, the force of reliance upon him is stirred. Entrusting one's affair to him, being content with him and with what he establishes for his servant and approves. Reliance is a meaning woven from the servant's knowledge of God's sufficiency and good choosing for his servant, his trust in him, and his contentment with what he does and chooses for him. When he manifests in the attributes of might and majesty, the tranquil soul gives him what befits the greatness of his station, lowliness before his grandeur, brokenness before his honour, submission to his majesty, the heart and limbs humbled for him. Serenity and dignity overshadow his heart, tongue, limbs, and very bearing. Impulsiveness and harshness depart. The sum of this is that he glorified be he makes himself known to the servant by the attributes of his Godhead at one time, and by the attributes of his Lordship at another. Witnessing the attributes of Godhead engenders that special love, yearning to meet him, intimacy and joy in him, gladness in serving him, competing in drawing near to him, endearing oneself to him through obedience, ceaseless remembrance, and fleeing from creation to him, till he alone becomes his aim. Witnessing the attributes of lordship engenders reliance upon him, neediness before him, seeking aid from him, lowliness and submission, and brokenness before him. The perfection is to witness his lordship in his Godhead, and his Godhead in his lordship, his praise in his dominion, his might in his pardon, his wisdom in his decree and destiny, his favour in his trial, his giving in his withholding, his kindness and grace and beneficence and mercy in his upholding, his reproach in his vengeance, his bounty in his forgiveness, covering and forbearance, to witness his wisdom and favour in his command and prohibition, his might in his pleasure and his anger, his forbearance in his delaying, his generosity in his welcoming, his independence in his turning away. If you ponder the Qur'an, grant it immunity from distortion, and refrain from making your judgment of it subject to the opinions of dialecticians and the constructions of controversies, it will show you a sovereign, self-subsisting above his heavens, upon his throne, managing the affairs of his servants, commanding and forbidding, sending messengers, revealing books, being pleased and angered, rewarding and punishing, giving and withholding, honouring and abasing, lowering and raising, seeing from above the seven, hearing and knowing the secret and the open doer of whatever he wills, described by every perfection, sanctified from every defect. Not a mote moves, nor what is above it, save by his leave. Not a leaf falls, but with his knowledge. Qur'an 6:59. None may intercede with him, save by his leave. Qur'an 34:23. For his servants there is, apart from him, no protector and no intercessor. Section: When the messenger pledged with the people at Aqaba, he ordered his companions to emigrate to Medina. Quraysh then realized that his followers had become many and that they would protect him. So their minds set themselves to devising stratagems. Some proposed imprisonment, some banishment. They then united upon killing. The courier came with the news from heaven, and he was commanded to leave his bed. Al slept in his place. The truthful one readied himself for the companionship of the journey. When they left the houses of Mecca, concern seized Abu Bakr. He would think of ambush and walk ahead, then of pursuit and fall behind, then to his right and then to his left until they reached the cave. The truthful one entered first, to be a shield if there were any harm. God caused a tree to grow that had not been there before. It darkened the sought one and misled the seeker. A spider came and took over the face of the cave, spinning the garment of its weaving upon the loom of concealment, sealing the chink so firmly that the tracker was blinded. He sent 2 doves that made a nest there, and he placed a veil upon the eyes of the pursuers. This was a greater miracle than opposing the people with hosts. When the pursuers stood over their heads and their words came within the hearing of the messenger and the truthful, anxiety weighed upon the latter. O messenger of God, had one of them looked to what is under his feet, he would surely have seen us. The messenger said, O Abu Bakr, what do you think of 2 when God is the third of them? Qur'an 9:40. Seeing how his sorrow had intensified, he strengthened his heart with the glad tiding. Grieve not, indeed, God is with us. Qur'an 9:40. Thus the secret of this coupling in the word with became manifest in expression, as it had been in reality, just as one says, the messenger of God and the companion of the messenger of God. When he died, it was said, the caliph of the messenger of God. When he died, the addition of succession ceased, and it was said, commander of the believers. They remained in the cave 3 days. Then they came forth, and the tongue of decree said, You shall enter it with an entry such as none before you shall enter, nor is it fitting for any after you. When they mounted the open country, Suraka ibn Malik pursued them. As he neared triumph, the messenger released an arrow of supplication upon him. The legs of his horse sank into the earth up to its belly. Realizing he had no way over them, he offered wealth to one who had returned the keys of treasuries and sent food to one who sleeps satiated. I pass the night with my Lord, who feeds me and gives me drink. That gift, too, when they were in the cave, was set aside for the truthful alone among all men. He was second in Islam, second in offering up the self, second in renunciation, second in companionship, second in the caliphate, second in lifespan, second in the cause of death, for the messenger died by the effect of poison, and Abu Bakr was poisoned and died. At his hand accepted Islam from among the 10. Uthman, Talha, Al-Zubayr, Abd al-Rahman ibn Auf, and Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. When he accepted Islam, he possessed 40,000 dirhams. He spent them when Islam most needed them. Hence his spending brought upon him, No wealth has benefited me as has the wealth of Abu Bakr. He is better than the believer of Pharaoh's household, for that one hid his faith while the truthful proclaimed it, and better than the believer of Yasin's people, for that one strove an hour while the truthful strove for years. He saw the bird of poverty circling around the grain of altruism, crying, Who is it that will lend to God a goodly loan? Qur'an 2:22-45. He cast to it the grain of wealth upon the meadow of contentment, and reclined upon the bed of poverty, so the bird carried the grain to the crop of multiplication, then perched upon the branches of the tree of truth, trilling with many a mode of praise. Then he recited in the sanctuaries of Islam, And the most God-conscious shall be spared it, the one who gives his wealth to purify himself. Qur'an 92:17-18. Verses and reports speak with one tongue of his merit. The emigrants and the helpers agreed upon his pledge. O you who hate him, there is in your hearts a fire when his mention is recited. Each time his virtues are read, abasement rises over them. Have the unbelieving Rafida not heard? Two, when the two were in the cave. Qur'an 9:40. He was called to Islam. He did not hesitate nor refuse. He walked the clear highway, he did not slip nor stumble. He was patient in his days at the reach of the enemy's shafts. He spent and did not stint until he wore the cloak of poverty. By God, in every dinar he surpassed the minting. Two, when the two were in the cave. Qur'an 9:40. Who was the Prophet's companion in his youth? Who among his companions preceded him in faith? Who answered swiftly in his presence? Who was the first to pray with him? Who was the last to lead prayer over him? Who lay with him in the earth after death? Know the right of the neighbour. He stood on the day of apostasy with insight and wakefulness. He made plain from the text of the book a meaning too subtle for the sharpest of glances. The lover rejoices in his virtues, the hater frets. The Rafid's grief is that he flees from an assembly of his remembrance, but where is flight? How often did he protect the messenger with soul and wealth? How close he was in life, and he is his companion in the grave. His virtues are majestic, free of ambiguity. What marvel that one should try to cover the eye from the noon sun? They entered a cave with no inhabitant. The truthful was frightened by the chances. The messenger said, "What think you of two, and God is the third?" Qur'an 9:40. The sakana descended, fear was lifted, anxiety vanished, the life of those in waiting was sweetened. The herald of victory called out from the minarets of the lands, two, when the two were in the cave. Qur'an 9:40. Love of him by God is the head of the primordial faith, and hating him points to a corrupt inward. He is the best of the companions and of the kin, and the proof is mighty. Had the one called son of the Hanfa not been legitimate, none would have so named him. By God, we have not loved him from caprice, nor do we hold another in contempt out of whim. We have taken by Allah's own word, and it suffices us. The messenger of God was pleased with you for our religion. Shall we not be pleased with you for our worldly affairs? By God, we have exacted from the Rafida their due wage. By God, the right of the truthful is upon us. We discharge it with our praises and rejoice in what we affirm light to the eye. Let whoever is Rafid to not approach us, let him bring excuses. Tanbih, attention. Avoid those who hate the people of the book and the Sunnah, lest their loss infect you. Beware two enemies by which most people have perished. One who turns you from God's path with specious arguments and gilded talk, and one bewitched by his world and his status. Whoever is created with a strength and readiness for a thing finds his delight in exercising it. The one with capacity for union finds joy in union. The one with the capacity of anger in the exercise of that fierce strength. The one created with the capacity for eating and drinking in their exercise. The one created with the capacity for knowledge and recognition in the exercise of that capacity in learning. The one created with the capacity for loving God, turning to him, dwelling with the heart upon him, yearning for him, and finding intimacy with him. His delight and bliss is in exercising this capacity. All other delights compared to this are vanishing and withering. The best of their outcomes is that they be neither for him nor against him. Tanbih, attention. O noble one, beware the insight of the God-conscious, for he sees the nakedness of your deed through the veil. Beware the insight, firasa, of the believer. Glory be to God. In the soul is the pride of Iblis, the envy of Kabul, the audacity of Ad, the tyranny of Thamud, the insolence of Nimrod, the haughtiness of Pharaoh, the wantonness of Karun, the impudence of Haman, the caprice of Balaam, the guile of the Sabbath people, the revolt of the prodigal, and the ignorance of Abu Jahl. In it, too, are the traits of beasts, the crow's greed, the dog's ravenousness, the peacock's vainglory, the dung-beetle's lowliness, the lizard's impiety, the camel's rancour, the panther's pounce, the lion's onslaught, the mouse's debauchery, the serpent's malice, the monkey's mischief, the ant's hoarding, the fox's cunning, the moth's heedlessness, and the hyena's slumber. But discipline and striving banish these. Whoever abandons himself to his nature is from this army. His goods are unfit for the transaction. Truly, God has purchased from the believers their selves. Qur'an 9:111. For he buys only a merchandise refined by faith, taken out from its natural state into a land whose inhabitants are the repentant, the devout. Deliver the merchandise before it perishes in your hands, lest the buyer refuse it. The buyer knew the defect before he purchased it, so hand it over, and you are safe from rejection. The value of the merchandise is known by the worthiness of its buyer, the price paid, and the crier who proclaims it. If the buyer is magnificent, the price precious, and the crier august, then the merchandise is of great price. O seller of your soul in the market of disgrace, if only you could reclaim this sale before death, you would not lose. You have bartered a noble, priceless life for a phantom of life, pilfered by pains. By God, your loss is glaring. On the day of mutual loss, you'll see the final war. You drink a cup whose surface is clear, but whose dregs are mud. Ahead of you is the drinking by truth, and not by lies. You gather wood by night in the pitch black, for every calamity that brings you nearer to ruin. You hope for healing with eyes already diseased. Did you ever hear of a cure arising from affliction? You squander yourself chasing the ugliest of faces and smear the beauty of your soul stolen from you. You give yourself away. What foolishness! Had you known the worth of the soul, you would not have given it. Youth has greyed, but you keep playing at being young. Your time is wasted between amusement and play. The sun of your life has neared its setting, its twilight yet lingering on your eastern sky. Those who truly strove have attained the union, the night's darkness, and the clouds have fled their sky. How long delay when the world's caravan has departed, and your Lord's envoys have reached you, calling you to set out? There is nothing left in the abodes the one you love has ridden away for the lover, but thanks and no appetite. Lay your cheek upon that dust, and say what the man of ardour and long years said. No homestead of Maya, ringed by Galan, is sweeter to me than your ruined quarter. Nor cheeks, though reddened with blood, dearer to my eyes than your ruined quarter. Each time those dwellings are revealed to him, he rushes to them like water in a steep descent. Memory of the covenants there enkindles his longing. Were his heart called to forgetfulness, it would not answer. This, and how many a dwelling on earth does he love. Yet for any dwelling else he has no desire forever. There is in no tent a friend who will understand if you pour to him some secret of love, so be a stranger. At night's depths, in its heaviest waves, be guided by the waft of perfume, not by aloes or firewood. Then turn from every coward and procrastinator, and battle yourself lest it fling you into war. Take for your soul a light to guide you on the day when lights are portioned by degrees. If my patience for your mercy must be an obligation, For the sake of my poor state and my wasted body, I've given you my spirit, seeking no price but your good pleasure, my poverty, not the cost. At day's two ends, I sigh for you in ardour. By night, passion calls me, and I answer. If there must be love, then from weakness let that love be for nothing but the beautiful. If I had aimed at a life brought near, a little of what I have would suffice, but I aspire to an everlasting kingdom. Alas for me, if I do not meet it. O you who are of the folk of experience, have you known the worth of your soul? Verily, the whole cosmos was created for you. You are nourished on the milk of beneficence. Everything is a tree in the hands of subtle tenderness, and you are the fruit. A form, and you are the meaning. A shell, and you are the pearl. A churning, and you are the butter. Our choice of you is writ clear, but your extracting is weak. If you would seek me within you. Seek me from yourself, you will find me near. Do not seek me in another, for I am nearer to you than he. Had you known the worth of your soul with us, you would not have abased it with sin. We cast out Iblis when he refused to bow to you while you were yet within your father's loins. Marvel then that you have reconciled with him and abandoned us. If there were love of us in your heart, its trace would appear upon your body. When you claimed love, she said, you lie. Do I not see your limbs swathed in comfort? Had the heart been nourished by love, the bloating of desire would have left it. And had you been a chaste lover, never would you be a glutton. True passion would have made you forget the love of eating. Had your love been sound, you would have shunned the company of those who do not remind you of the beloved. Wondrous the one who claims love, yet needs another to remind him of his beloved. He remembers him only when reminded. The least of love is that it never lets you forget the beloved. I remembered you not because I had ever once forgotten. The least of remembrance is the tongue's remembrance. When the lover travels to meet his beloved, his armies ride with him, love at the head of the host, hope setting the pace before the mounts, longing driving them, fear keeping them to the path. When he nears the arrival in the land of union, the gifts of the beloved come out to meet him. Cure a body whose sick you are and must destroy, and cool the blaze of love in a heart your fire has lit. Do not entrust me at the distance of lands to my weak patience, for you know my patience best. Behold, my heart sent headlong to meet you, preceded by its longings, has come to you. When he enters upon the beloved, he is robed from every direction to test him. Will he rest in them and take them as his portion? Or will his glance be to him who bestowed them? They filled the ships of hearts with goods that are spent only upon the king. When the winds of the dawn blew, those ships put out to sea, and at the break of day they had reached the harbour. They crossed the desert of love on the feet of earnestness. Ere long they returned from the journey rest in the way of welcome. They entered the land of union, gaining the profit of eternity. They emptied their hearts of distractions upon which the pavilions of love were pitched. Eyes kept watch, now guarding, now sprinkling, and the pavilion of love is never pitched save upon a meadow, fair and free of clutter. Cleanse your heart of all but us and of the spear. Our sanctuary is open to the pure alone. Patience is the talisman of our union's treasure. Who solves this talisman wins its hoard. Know the worth of what you have lost, and weep with him who knows his loss's worth. If you had envisioned the nearness of the beloved, you would have raised the morning for your distance. If you had inhaled the breath of dawn, your wine-benumbed heart would have awakened. He who sees the road as long walks slowly. You are no lover if you say, between us are long nights or far stretches of desert. Know you not that when the truthful one resolves, he casts his resolve before his eyes? When the month of Ab descends into the heart, Adhar descends into the eyes. The wakeful watchmen bear their nights easily when they know their voices are heard by the king. When the hawk sights the prey, he forgets the familiar hand. O feet of patience, carry me the little that remains, recall the sweetness of union, and the bitterness of striving grows easy. You have known the dwelling spur on, and you shall delight. The loftiest aspiration is that of one who prepares to meet the beloved, who sends his gifts before the meeting, who rejoices at his reception, who sends ahead for himself. The garden is pleased by your performing the obligations, the fire is repelled by your forsaking sins, but love will accept nothing less from you than the ransoming of the spirit for God. How sweet the time when the feet of obedience tread the ground of longing. When hearts surrender their souls to the trainer of the law, he teaches them accord even against nature. They straighten with obedience, however it turns, so do they turn with it. When the necks of their mounts clash, and the camel-driver spurs them on apace, I cross my hands upon my breast, veiled and lean.